Welcome everybody to another webinar that we're doing, teaching you all how to take back control of your money, how to be your own bank. This is all a continuation of what we started earlier this year with 2323, Make Banking Great Again. And you know what? It came out perfectly because it was right when the banks were failing and people realized, holy crap, is my money really safe at the traditional bank? You can make your own decision as to whether it is or it isn't. You can judge that, but the whole idea here is to teach you how to take back control, be your bank, and get all the money back for everything that you buy. Or for some of you that just love investing and lending like us, you get to make money twice instead of once by changing one thing. Driving to work today, I kind of had an epiphany. I've been dealing with a lot of clients and some really high net worth clients. And one of the things that was really interesting in dealing with these folks wasn't the fact that they needed more money or needed more assets. These two individuals that I'm talking about had significant assets in the millions of dollars in assets. And some of the assets were managed by advisors. Some of the assets were in the form of real estate. But here's the thing. When we ask the simplest question you can ask anybody, what is the problem you're trying to solve? It comes back to they want to do this, they want to do that. Maybe they want to live, with more freedom in their life. They want time back. They want more time to spend with their family. They want to travel. They want to do this. Now, I want you to all think about one thing and one thing here. If you had $8 million, okay, if you just imagine this, just put yourself in the mindset that you got $8 million. You've got all these assets, these real estate assets. You've got these IRAs. You've got these, accounts with brokerages. You got $8 million. And you tell your one main problem is you want more time back in your life. That seems like an easy solution, right? You want more time? Well, what is time? Well, time is something that we have been taught to give away. We have been taught to loosely use our time. We've been taught to trade hours for dollars. We've been taught to go to work and the amount of hours dictates the income we make, right? That's what we've been taught our whole life, from school, straight through the workforce, straight through college. Everything you've been taught is to trade hours for dollars. And one thing that I find incredibly crazy, and it hit me hard this morning, is that we have been taught to give up the single most precious thing that we all have, your time. So when we talk about taking back control of your money, when we talk about being your own bank, the one thing I want all of you to crystallize in your mind is the main thing you are trying to do is make your money work for you so that you don't have to work for money, to make your money continuously work for you so that you can enjoy the freedom of time. Now, the bad news is for some folks, we got to build up to the point where we have that big chunk of money like these two individuals. But I want you to go back to these two individuals that had millions of dollars. They had the same problem most of you have. You want more time in your life, more time to go on vacations with your kids, more time to run down the beach with your children, more time to spend the most valuable time in your life, and that is with your loved ones, your family. Because I've never met anyone who's on their deathbed or close to it or in their 80s or 90s that said, oh my God, I wish I would have worked a little bit more so that I had more money in the bank. You know what they're all saying? I wish I would have spent more time with my children. I wish I would have spent more time with my grandchildren. I wish I would have given up a little bit of my time to the people that matter the most. But we realize this too late in life. And folks, the reason I'm bringing this up is all of you are on a journey for one thing. Some of you are here because you want to learn how to pay off all your debts and you want to do it in half the time. Time, you heard me say it. Why take 19 years to pay off your debts when it can happen in 6.5 years by changing one thing? Maybe some of you are here for simple things like you just want to get all the money back for all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own. Maybe some of you are here because you got money and you want to make that money go to work and you want to learn how to lend it out using this concept called the infinite banking concept. Which, just to be clear for all of you, we're going to go into this. We're going to teach you this in this next round. The infinite banking concept. If I were to ask every one of the 228 people on here, what is it? And I bet you 1% of the folks would be able to tell me. So let's try it. In the chat right now, how many of you can tell me what the infinite banking concept is? And I won't hold any of you accountable, but what is the infinite banking concept? Be your own bank, but be more specific, Kate. Like, it's be your own bank, but how? How do you be your own bank? What is it that you got to do to be your own bank? Pull money infinitely, take back control of your money. I love these answers. These are all great. Using whole life, pay yourself for, man, you guys are awesome. But Mark put in there the one main thing. So see, a bunch of these are coming in. Whole life insurance. When I say infinite banking, so many people go immediately to a product. They think infinite banking is the specially designed whole life. So they're associating the infinite banking concept with a product. And I want to be very clear. The infinite banking concept is not a product. It is a process. It's very simply, and remember this, and I'll say it twice if you want to write it down. You'll get the recordings of this webinar, but the infinite banking concept is so simple. It is simply the process of taking back the banking functions in your life. I'm going to say that again. The infinite banking concept is simply taking back the banking functions in your life. In other words, let me give you an example. Me and my wife, we got a Mercedes that we drive. Larissa drives Vivi around. It's a big SUV Mercedes. It's close to 60,000 miles. So we started looking for one that we could get into that had lower miles, because at 60, they drop in value tremendously. So when we were looking at these vehicles, they come in all shapes and sizes, colors and prices. We didn't really care about the price. Do you know why? It's not because we can just afford to pay anything for a vehicle. Listen, I'm a bargain hunter. I grew up with nothing. I want the best freaking deal, and I'll shop for weeks to find it. I'll piss as many dealerships off as I have to find that perfect deal. My wife hates it, but I love it. How many of you on here just love pissing dealerships off by shopping the deal, right? It's fun. But you know what's even more fun? Is when you're looking at a vehicle and you look at it and you find the one you want. It's super fun to know that once you have the dealership make all the calculations on how much your monthly payment's going to be, and they come back and be like, hey, we got you a great deal, 7.79%. And folks, just so you all know, if you're shopping for a used car, because I don't buy new cars, if you're shopping for a used car, 7.79%, that's like the going rate. Isn't it freaking crazy? A couple of years ago, we were getting them at 2-3%. Now they're 7.79%. And they come back on this vehicle after the trade-in, because we're going to trade our car in on it, because why not, right? Just trade it in. They're giving good trades. And the difference that we have to pay on the car amounts to about an $1,100 monthly payment. Now, some of you gasp. Some of you are like, oh my God, that's a lot. Some of you are like, well, all right, that's what a car costs these days. But the coolest part is after the dealership figures out the monthly payment, you know what I'm thinking? That's sweet. I'm going to set up a bill pay for $1,100. And that bill pay is paying who? Me. That $1,100 every single month goes back to my policy, my private banking system. So all I do is I basically create the same exact system the banks, the traditional banks, have had us subscribe to for years. I create that same system for me, which gives me the ability to take back the banking functions in my life, meaning that whatever the car dealership or the finance company is going to charge me for the car, I just pay that back to myself. Don't overcomplicate this, folks. Like when I lend money to my company for marketing or copy machines or anything my company needs, I charge a flat 6%. I know I'm a cheap lender, but I charge my company 6%. My company writes a check every month back to my policy, my private banking. You see, when we talk about taking back control of your money, we're talking simply about every check that you write today to somebody else's bank. Imagine, just right now, imagine if every check you write to someone else's bank, imagine that check going into your bank account. Imagine if all you had to do is change one thing, and that's where your money goes first. And then over time, the next thing that happens is all those checks you write to everybody else, guess what you get to do? You get to change the name on the check, or get to change the name on the bill pay, or however you pay your bills, you just change the name. Instead of writing Ally Bank, Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, whoever you're paying to, you write your name. Chris Naugle, Brent Kessler, Stephen Nagy, Hannah Kessler, and every one of you, Tess, you write your name on the check. So every one of those checks you're paying to somebody else comes back to you. That's taking back control, and that's taking back the banking functions in your life. It's a process. That's all it is. A process that involves one change and one step that you got to change. You got to start thinking like the bank. You can't make this work if you want to steal from your own bank. You go out of business. If any of you have ever owned a business, plan to own a business, or just know somebody that owns a business, ask them if they steal from their business. The answer is always going to be no, because if they start stealing from their business, their employees start stealing from the business and they go out of business. You see, when you create your own banking system, you have to be regimented enough to be an honest banker, which means if you're okay paying Ally Bank, Wells Fargo, Visa, Amex, whoever you pay, if you're okay making a monthly payment, you don't even think about it, right? You make monthly payments every single month to credit card companies, to car payment companies, to whatever bank you make payments to. You do, and you don't even think about it because you feel like you have to. Because if you don't, well, they're going to take your car in the middle of the night. If you don't, they're going to ding your credit score. If you don't, they're going to come and start calling you with collection notices. But you see, when you become the bank, you don't steal from your bank, so you would make the same payments back. But what's the problem with that? Let me go out on a limb. Let's just say you bought yourself your dream car and your payment was $2,500 a month. How many of you would care if the payment was $2,500 a month, if you wrote the check to yourself every single month? Would it matter what you pay for the car? Would it matter what you pay for the boat? Would it matter what you pay for the house? If you indeed got all the money back for every car, house, boat, anything you buy back, it wouldn't make a damn difference because you control the narrative. Now, let me transition this back to what I started with, that epiphany that hit me this morning. The simplest thing that we do every single day, this entire team, Brent Kessler, Hannah Kessler, Stephen Nagy, myself, all of us, we just teach you how to take back the freedom of your time by making your money go to work for you so you no longer have to work as much as you do now. And if you had control of your hours and you could spend your hours however you want because your money was always working for you and every check you write to everybody else was getting written back to you, would that change your life? I want you to really think about that. No fancy PowerPoints here, no fancy slides right here. Be real. I'm just being real with you. Would that change your life? Because if it would, that's why you're here tonight. To take back time. Yes, control of your money. Yes, be your own bank. Yes, take back the banking functions. But why? To get control of your time and have that freedom. There is nothing more powerful than that. And if you start this today for yourself, maybe you start it for your business partners, right? You and your business partners get together and you do it in your business like Tim was talking about. Maybe you set up policies for your kids so that they have the same luxuries that my children and Hannah and so many of your children are going to have because you started them off at a young age and you taught them how to just be their own bank. Sweetie, you want to buy a car? Great. Let's go look at a car. The only rule with you buying a car is your bank has to have enough money to fund the car you want, but not just fund the car you want, because once we buy the car, taking a loan from your bank, i.e. the specially designed whole life, you have to make monthly payments. So sweetie, and I'm talking to my daughter here, Vivi, you want that Porsche 911? That's a beautiful car, isn't it? It's your favorite color, red. But now I know you can afford that car. It's only $120,000, that 911. But sweetie, here's the issue. If you buy that car, you can't make the monthly payments back to yourself because you don't make enough income to pay that. So, sweetie, why don't we look at another car? Let's look at that Volkswagen. Okay, great car. Let's look at that Volkswagen because now you can afford that $600 a month payment that is going to be paid every month back to your bank. Because if you steal from your bank, sweetie, your bank's going to go out of business and you're never going to be able to buy cars in the future. See, if you just plant the seed with your children when they're young and you teach them this, their lives will be so different. How do I know this? Well, love it or hate it, look at the Rockefellers. Why is it that every generation they get wealthier and wealthier? It's not because they're super great at what they do. It's not because of anything other than they teach their children how to operate the family banking system, which is exactly what we teach. So what I'd love to do at this point, folks, is I want you all to think about that. And we're going to go through, I'm going to have Stephen come on and we're going to basically walk you through what being your own bank is all about. Because it's not difficult, but it's not just buying a product. It's changing where your money goes and then immediately applying the principles of the process called the infinite banking concept.
All right, we're going to dig into this. I mean, I guess the first question kind of is, for everybody new, like we just talked about the process of the infinite banking concept and taking back control of our money. I mean, at the end of the day, there's three different areas I want everybody to focus on as we go here tonight. So number one, I just want you to think to yourselves, like, what financial situation are you in right now as we sit at this table or at your desk or in your bed or on your couch or where on your phone, in your car, wherever you're watching this right now. And just think to yourselves, like, where are you right now and where do you want to go in the future? So it's very important to be able to plan that out because when we talk about creating a banking system, It's very easy. Like Chris said, we're going to use a whole life insurance policy as the vehicle for this. But then it's the process, it's the concept that is the power of this. But the only way that we're going to be able to do this in your life is if that you understand where you are today and where you want to go. And we'll talk about how we're going to hold your hand and help you with that every step along the way. But I want you to start thinking about that, because what do most people do that, for instance, have debt? You know, they're going to start budgeting, they're going to start paying the debt to the credit card companies. And as they do that, what happens with all of their dollars? All of their dollars go to someone else's bank. They go to the credit card company. They go to American Express or Chase or Wells Fargo or whoever. And so those dollars are gone forever. So how would you like to be able to find another way to pay off debt? Like Chris said, not in 19 years, in 6.5 years. But here's the best part, is not only paying off the debt faster, but also building wealth simultaneously, even while you're paying off that debt. So if you have any debt right now, just start thinking to yourself, what does that debt look like? Is it credit cards? Is it mortgages? Is it student loans? And just start thinking about that in your head. Maybe you start jotting that down, because that's going to come into play later on. Maybe we'll dig in a little bit deeper, you know, what types of debt to tackle and stuff like that in a minute. But I just want you to think about that for a second. And then number two, we're going to show you in just a minute an example of how to purchase a vehicle and get every single dollar back for the purchase of that car. Just think to yourself right now, do you need a new car in the next few months, in the next few years, for yourself, for someone in your family? Are you going to be making a purchase like that? If not a car, maybe a boat, maybe an airplane. What are you purchasing in your life right now? So what is the ways that we're going to do that? So when you look at buying a car, most people will go and they'll save up their money and they'll buy it cash, or they'll go and they'll finance it. Well, if you finance it, where does all that interest go that you're paying? To somebody else's bank. So again, we're going to show you how to stop bleeding all this money out of your life. So that's the second example. And then the third example we're going to show you here in just a moment is when it becomes fun. This is what we call creating the millionaire. And this is how we're going to start using this banking system to warehouse your wealth. So you might not have any debts you're paying, you might not have any purchases, but how do we use this as a warehouse of wealth to multiply our money and get us to our financial goals a lot quicker? See, I was a financial advisor out of college. I worked with Ameriprise Financial, fully licensed Series 766, and my job was to sit down with clients, and this was some of the stuff that I would do. So I would break out this little book right here. If you guys can see it, it's called the Dream Book. And this was what we would give to all of our clients. And if you go through this right here, it talks about what are your hopes? What are your dreams? Now, why would this be the first conversation I would have with a client as a financial advisor? Why would I want to talk to them about their dreams? Not about their debts, not about how much money they make, or 401k choices, or hedge fund, or mutual fund choices, things. We would talk to them about their dreams. Why would we do that? Because we want people to think about the future. We want them to think about where they want to be down the road. And one of the reasons for that is because you're going to start today where you are, no matter what, like whether you have a job, whether you own a business, whether you have a bunch of debt, whether you don't right now, where you sit today is where you are, period. But how you're going to get to where you want to be in the future, that path can have many different roads. Would everybody agree with that? And not only will that path have many different roads, but that path, you might be headed on the right road, and then all of a sudden what happens? An earthquake, and that road gets cut in half, and all of a sudden you got to turn around and go back and start over. Or you got to all of a sudden, there's a fork in the road. Which path do I take? And so eventually you'll get to where you want to be, but how quickly can you get there? And so when we start talking about what is this system, how does it work? The reason why we kind of talk about this other stuff first and not just get right into how does the whole life insurance work? How do we build the policy that way? How do we start using this process? But we got to know where we are now to where we want to go, because that path is going to be different for every single person. And so we need to start really being smart, okay? Everybody, or like I said, where you are today, everyone has the same amount of time and you have a certain amount of dollars coming in. So it's not only how do we be smart with those dollars, but how do we start keeping more of those dollars that we're earning? And so when we look at the infinite banking concept and using a specially designed whole life policy the way that we do, the reason it's so powerful is because there's no other vehicle out there in the world that allows us to do what we do with this whole life policy. And when you combine that with the right path, with the right plan, with that financial GPS. Where are you right now today? And where do you want to go? And how do we get you there the fastest way possible? No matter what life throws at you along the way, it's going to allow you to do stuff in life that you never thought possible. And I've seen this happen for literally thousands of people over the last 15 years working in the consulting business, in the financial education space, when it comes to real estate investing, when it comes to using policies this way. I've seen it help so many people. It's the most powerful thing I've ever seen. So when we talk about mimicking the banks, let's just start with the banks for a minute here, Chris. So what do banks do with our money? Okay, so let me just pull, should I pull up some slides? Is that good?
And actually, Stephen, before you do that, I want to show the banks, but can I just show one thing? Because it's perfect. And I'm watching the comments come in. So folks, check this out. Like, all we're talking about here is how do you create a system to take back the money that you're giving away? That's where we started, which then creates time. So where does your money go? Some people have credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, they have car payments, they have student loans. So all I want to do here is show you how simple this is. Most of you, okay, have money and it's going somewhere. I don't care if it's a 401k, you got money going into the savings, you got money going into checking. I want you to really think about, where does your income that you don't spend go? Okay, so it goes into one of these places, and what do? You save the money here, and a lot of you, from your checking account, you make monthly payments on these debts. And all of these debts have an interest rate. Visa might be 20, MasterCard might be 15, Amex might be 29, car payment might be 3%, 7%, and your student loans might be 0, okay? I want you to think about all of those. That's money that's leaking your family every single day. But imagine if we just changed where the savings went first. So instead of putting in a checking account or a savings account or putting in the 401k any more than the match, I always tell people put in up to the match, but nothing more. We change where it goes, and it goes into one of these silly, specially designed and engineered whole lives. And then we immediately take that money and we basically take it out of the policy, which is done in the form of a loan, okay? And we start paying off the debts from lowest to highest. We pay off MasterCard. MasterCard, you had a $2,000 balance. It's the lowest balance on the credit cards, and you were paying 15%. So let's just say you were giving them $100 a month. So what we then do, like I said earlier, is we change the name on the check. So now we got $100 a month that used to go to MasterCard, but we no longer owe it to MasterCard. So now we pay that back over here. How much did you make? Well, you made $100 back. You recycled and recaptured $100, but really, let's just do the math. You took back 15%, because that's what I had MasterCard at. So then the 100 comes over here, your savings is going into the whole life. We immediately then repeat the process, and we take another loan. We pay the next loan off. Amex, which was charging you 29%, $3,000 a month. Let's say that's another 100. So now we change the name on that check, $100, and then we've got 29% coming back. And we just keep going through this from lowest to highest. You pay off Visa, okay? That was 20%. So we'll put 20 here, and let's just use 200 a month for Visa. We pay off the car. That was $500 a month, okay? And that was 7%. So we got 7. We pay off the other car. That was 3. Stephen, can you do the calculation real quick? 15 plus 29 plus 20 plus 7 plus 3. And then remember, there's no interest that you were paying on the student loan, but it was costing you $200 a month. So really, that's a cash flow play. So how much does that add up to in a total interest rate that you were giving away?
74.
74. And if you could divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's throw in the student loan 6. Divide 74% by 6, because we had 6 debts that we just paid off.
12.3.
12.3%. Now, let me ask you all a question. How much risk are all of you taking to try to make 12.3% in your investment portfolio with that fancy-dancy financial advisor like me and Stephen used to be? Honestly, how happy would you be if you got your 401k statement tomorrow and you earned 12.3%? But then the next month or the next quarter, when you get your 401k, it might be down 15%. And you're like, oh, that sucks. I just gave back all the money. You see, with this, you took back 12.3%. But see, that's not even the important thing. 500 plus 200 plus 100 plus 100 plus 200, you took all that money back. Now, how long did it take you? I don't know. Let's say it took 2 to 5 years to take that back. Do you know how long people work at a job to try to get a raise? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's $1,100 a month. What do you have to do at your job or in your business to make $1,100 more a month? Some of you, it's easy. Some of you, it's like, wow, I'd have to work another 5 years at 3% raise every year if the boss is being nice. You just took back the money. But you know, this is for people that have a problem with debt. This is for people that want to take back the money that they're giving away. But you know what? I saw on here, Tammy said, I have a cash flow problem. Which there are people, there's only two types of people in the world. There's people with money and they have a problem, and that's they want to make more money, right, Tammy? You got money, but you want to make more money. Remember that client I talked about that at $8 million? You know what her goal is? She wants to make more money. 8 million, you might say, oh, that's enough. When's enough enough? Never, because there's always people that need help. Maybe they need help for paying their medical bills. Maybe they need food for children. Maybe they need help, you know, with all the things out there in the world. There's never enough money. You can never have too much money. So the problem for people with money is different than the problem for people that need money. Okay, so the problem with people that have money is they've got a cash flow issue. They want to make more money. So let's just say they take some of their money. Now, this is a different game. Let's say that $8 million person, okay, let's just use that. Or well, let's just say they got 500,000 sitting in a bank account. So all we do is we change where that $500 goes, 500,000 goes. It goes into the whole life. And then what we do is we set up a plan so that whatever they want to save each year, and this is a real example, this person wanted to save $70,000 a year. Why 70? Because that's how much they were saving before. Your number could be different. I'm just using a real example. They had 500K in a bank account. We changed where it went. We're going to put it into this specially designed whole life. And then each year they're going to save $70,000 a year. They don't have to, but that's the most they can put in. They can reduce this by anywhere between 60 and 75%. So that's the flexibility. You got the floor at 60 to 75% less. So they dump all this money in. They immediately then deploy, let's just say out of that scenario, let's say they deploy $500,000. And they hear about this really good borrower that's on privatemoneyclub.com called ROI Properties. Big developer. Everybody's talking about them. They're a really good borrower and they got a great track history. So they say, okay, well, maybe I'll lend money to them in a first secured position with a personal guarantee, meaning that this developer is going to put them in a first position on the property they're lending on, and they're going to give them a personal guarantee, making sure that if they don't make the payments, the lender, this person here, can go after their personal assets. Like that's about as secured as it gets. You know, when you borrow money from the bank, they make you sign a personal guarantee. So if you don't pay them, they can take you to court and go after all that. So you lend that money out, 500,000, and you earn 12%. Stephen, what's 12% of $500,000? How much does that work out to be monthly? There we go. 60,000, Rick, but 5,000 a month. So right there, that person just added $5,000 a month in income. It doesn't matter how much money they have in net worth. Doesn't matter how much money they got in different accounts. They had a cash flow problem. Okay. Tammy mentioned, I want more cash flow. We just need to make our money work for us harder. Now, the one thing I left out here is I left out, well, why would they put it into the whole life? So let me hit that. Now, this goes for the debt and also goes for the lending situation. Two different problems, right? One person needs money, so we're going to take money back from paying off debts. This person has money, but they want more cash flow, so we're going to deploy the money and make it work. But the best part is in both these scenarios, in this scenario, $570,000 went into the policy, which means $570,000 is earning a guaranteed interest rate. Okay, how much is the interest rate? Depends on the company we use, but let's just say 3. And we have one company that's 3.75 guaranteed. Okay. And then they pay a dividend. And we don't have a company after dividend that pays less than 5.2%. So unless your bank or money market is paying you more than 5.2%, and unless 3 to 3.75% of that is lock, stock, and barrel guaranteed for the rest of your life, well, then this might be a better solution. But the best part is when we had the 570 in the policy and we took 500 out to put it, you know, to work with ROI Properties as a loan, how much money is still left after we took 500,000? Some of you already know this. How much is left? Some would say, oh, we had 570, we took 500, so there's only 70 left. Wrong. There's 570 left, earning dividends and guaranteed interest. 570,000 is always going to be working for this person. Every year, they're going to add 70,000, which means every year, another 70,000 is working for them. Plus, the interest and dividends that they earned the prior year is now also working for them. This is uninterrupted compound interest. This is your money working for you. Yes, over here, it's working for you at 12%. And in the prior screen, it's working for you because you took back all the interest that you were giving away to those credit cards. But at the same exact time, the policy continues to pay you interest and dividends uninterrupted, even when you take the money out. So now what happens is you get to make money twice. You now have money working for you twice instead of once. And the last time, I might not be the smartest person out there or the sharpest tack or however they say that, but I do know 2 is better than 1. Stephen, let's show them how a bank makes money. And that way that'll make it very clear.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify here, like you don't have to have $500,000 or you don't have to have $50,000 to do this. We had several people just kind of, hey, we're struggling or living paycheck to paycheck right now, that kind of thing. So on that, I just want to be very, 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 very clear that this concept and this strategy will absolutely work for you, even if that's your situation. Now, if you literally don't have any savings right now, or you're building debt every month, putting it on credit cards, then that's a situation where we might need to dig in a little bit to where are you spending money? What are your expenses? What does that look like? And maybe either make some changes to the spending or look at strategies you can do on the side to generate additional income, which if you guys stick with us to the last hour, we are going to talk a lot about that. So we're going to get into something called the Private Money Club. So just on that real fast, just so people know, we're not dismissing you at all right now. Like we're going to come back to you, but I would want to say 2 things to this point. So number 1, real fast, just in the chat box, can we do that, Chris, real fast? I just want to find out like who right now like has money and they're looking to either be smart with them, and just write money in there. If you have money and you're looking to be smart with your money, you're looking for places to warehouse it, to deploy it, maybe get it out of the stock market, be smart with investments, be smart with opportunities. Who right now feels like that's them, where they have money? Just put money in the box. And then those of you that are maybe on the other side of the coin where you need money, just put need in the chat box. Like maybe you need additional money every month, every year, you're barely getting by, you're looking to pay off debts and have help with that somehow. Just put need in the chat box. And I'm just curious, so money or need in there. Okay. And actually, while you guys are putting that in there, Alfonso said need cash flow. And that's a really interesting comment, because we actually just talked about that this morning. And I was actually just talking to a client about that a couple hours ago before this webinar. So we'll definitely hit on that one also during the final hour. But I wanted to bring that up because if you're somebody that needs money, stick with us. And we weren't planning on doing this, Chris, but let's teach them the basics of what's called wholesale real estate. It's the most proven and, in my opinion, best way to create additional income, create additional wealth for yourself, starting with nothing. As long as you have a will, you have some energy, and you have a little bit of time, we can show you how to do this. And so it's just using little things like that we can show you where you don't have to change your life today. I don't want you to go out there. Maybe you have to budget, but I don't want you to have to do that. But you got to do one of the two. You're either going to change or you got to hustle. So if that's your situation, so we will get into that. And then also, I mean, how many people over time started one of these policies just thinking they were using it for savings, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, they realized, hey, I'm in a really bad financial position right now. And then it's like the wings come up and the rain lifts and the clouds go away, the fog goes away, and you're like, oh yeah, I have that whole life policy that I can tap into. I mean, how many people over history has that happened to? I mean, I have a few stories I could show you here. So this was just a couple examples of people who use whole life policies over history. But get this, Disneyland almost did not happen. Walt Disney actually had to tap into and borrow against his cash value whole life policy just to keep Disney going. So just a real world example of that happening to somebody. A couple other examples. Ray Kroc with McDonald's. McDonald's almost never happened. He actually tapped into his whole life policies when he needed it most to be able to pay his executives in McDonald's to keep the company going. Pampered Chef. Doris Christopher started Pampered Chef in her suburban Chicago home in 1980 by borrowing $3,000 from her insurance policy. 2002, the company had grown into a $7 million operation that was acquired by Warren Buffett for $1.5 billion. So these are real world examples of people that were struggling financially in a venture, and they realized they had a whole life policy to tap into. So they were using infinite banking without even maybe knowing they were using it. And Chris, I know you personally, when COVID hit, I don't know if you want to tell kind of just the basics of that story, but you tapped into one of your policies just to keep money school going at the time, right?
Yeah, so it was an interesting thing when COVID happened. Obviously, our business kind of came to a screeching halt, like so many other businesses. We had to pivot heavily. Now, what we've created today in the digital space didn't exist back then, and I'll never forget the one day, Shauna, who obviously gets paid a paycheck biweekly. She comes over to my office with this kind of gloomy look on her face, and she says, "Chris, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Sure. What's the problem?" She said, "Well, I'm looking at the bank account for money school, and I'm just worried because I don't think there's enough money in there to make payroll." And obviously, she at that time, I think her and Gabby were the only two getting payroll, and she saw the bank account because in this business we're very transparent. We all know the financials because that's how I run a business. It's a culture. Everybody has to know how the business is operating. And when she said that, I said, "Huh, well, that is a problem." So, and that doesn't make her feel good. She's supposed to get a paycheck. She doesn't know if she's going to get a paycheck. How would you feel? Would you all feel real confident about your employment? Would you feel real confident about your future if you're looking at that? You wouldn't. So what I said is, don't worry. By the end of today, we'll have that figured out. She didn't know what I meant. I said, well, I'm going to borrow from my private banking system. Now, at that time, Shauna kind of hears me talking about it, but she didn't really fully understand it. I went into one of my older policies. I took a loan. And the funny thing is, and I wish I had it on me, I still have the note in that company. Flip Out Academy back then is who the payroll was through, still pays me every single month for that loan I made to them, because I never paid the loan off. It's just simple interest. Why would I pay the loan off if the company has revenue to keep paying me interest, right? That's what I did. So I took that loan from my policy and I was able to make payroll. Shauna felt better. And then all I did is I structured a note so that the company, Flip Out Academy, made payments back to me every single month. Now, remember, that was 2020. Today's 2023, and it's still paying me. And I can tell you there's lots of those types of loans out there. But, a lot of you, had asked a very valid question. And I want to make sure I hit this real quick. We went over the policy, we went over the interest and the dividends, and I put some numbers on the screen. But some of you probably realized that I missed a number, right? In this example, the 500,000 loan to ROI, and I was talking about the guaranteed interest plus the dividend. Now, just so you all know, the guarantee, when we talk about the total rate, the 5.2 or 6%, that's interest and dividend. Okay, so let's just use 5.2. In order for her to take the 500,000 out of her policy, okay, when she had 570 in there, it required her to take a loan from the insurance company. The insurance company collateralizes that loan with the 570,000 that's in cash value, which is why the money never leaves and why it can earn uninterrupted. The only number that changes is the death benefit, which I didn't even write on there, goes down by 500,000. Now, the insurance company, although they're great companies, we like to think that they really care about us, but they don't. They're profit companies. So when they make that loan, they do charge interest on that loan. And the interest, in the companies we work with, anywhere between, I think it was 4.78 is One America, and let's just say 5%. So they charge, let's just keep it at simple math, 5%. So they charge 5%, and we're making 5.2. So right out of the hole, some of you would say, okay, well, I'm making money, right? You're making a spread. But some of you would say, oh my God, it's hardly anything. It's 0.2%. Let me remind you that that's more than your bank account probably pays you, but let's not even go there. You are paying interest to the insurance company when you take a loan, but the insurance company is paying you interest and dividends on the full amount, compounding. You'd have to understand the difference between compound interest, and we'll show you this in a little bit.
Yeah, I can show you an
interest
example.
is simple. What's that, Stephen?
I'll show you an example.
Give an example of the difference. This is something you all need to understand, because a lot of you just look at numbers from a surface. You need to understand how math really works. Pull that up and show them.
Yeah, so we'll start kind of bringing this all together right now for everybody.
Right.
So like Chris said, I mean, when we talk about creating this banking system, there's some moving parts to it. So let's just start at the very beginning here. So like Chris said, when you borrow money from the policy, you're paying the insurance company interest, simple interest, and the money stays in your policy compounding. So let me show you in the real world with a real example exactly how that works and what that looks like. So let me just ask everyone a real simple question, and you can put this in the chat box. Can you make money earning 4%?
We got a smart group right here, Stephen.
Everyone that says yes has
yes.
seen this before. Everyone that says no has not. There's
So
Carrie. Hey,
Carrie said no. That's good.
All right.
I mean, right? Like 6 minus 4 is, you're losing money, right?
All right. So we'll show you this. All right. So here we go. So let me just give you an example of how this works. All right. So first off, we have a car. All right. Everybody knows how to buy a car. You want to buy a car, $25,000. You've been saving up your money into someone else's bank. So you've been paying, putting your money in Wells Fargo, putting your money in Chase. Remember, your money has to go somewhere. Money always has to go somewhere. So most people put their money in a regular traditional bank. So that's what you've been doing for the last few years. You saved up $25,000. So you go down to the bank and you say, hi, I'd like to withdraw $25,000 from my savings account. And then what's the teller going to do? They're going to say, well, we need to know why you want your money. Anything over $10,000. They're probably going to tell you to come back in a couple of weeks to get it because they don't have the money sitting there. But nonetheless, okay, let's just pretend you say, I want the $25,000. So the teller's going to go get the bank manager. The bank manager is going to come back over. And the bank manager says, okay, listen to me. I understand you want to buy a car with the $25,000 in your savings account. But listen, I'm going to make a deal with you. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a magic savings account. And in this magic savings account, we're going to pay you 4% annual return on your money in this magic savings account. Now, the reason I say it's a magic savings account is because most savings accounts up until very recently, and that's only if you have like a high yield special one, are not paying 4% in a savings account, right? So let's just say it's a magic account and they offer you 4%. So you're like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. Well, how am I going to buy the car? And the banker says, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that savings account as collateral, and I'm going to give you a loan to go purchase that vehicle. So that way you have your $25,000 you saved in this magic savings account, plus you can still go buy that car that you want. And you look at the banker and say, okay, well, that sounds pretty cool. Well, is that it? And the banker says, well, you know what? Just like any car note, we are going to charge you interest. And you say, okay, well, what's the interest on it? And the banker says, well, the interest is going to be 6% annually. And you look at the banker and you say, you know what? I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I understand that if you're paying me 4% and I'm paying you 6%, I'm going to lose money. So why would I do that? Like, just give me my money and let me go buy the car cash. But here's the reality of it. Okay, let's do the math on this. So first off, how does a car note work? When you take a $25,000 loan on basically anything, when you make a monthly payment on it, what happens with the balance of that loan? It drops, right? So that $25,000 is going to drop with each payment that you make. All right, so I'll show you that over here. So we have the bank with the money at 4%. We have the vehicle at 6%. And let's just say the car note's 60 months, 5 years. That's pretty simple, right? All right, so let's do this comparison. Over here, we have a $483 payment. So at the end of the 5 years, that $25,000 will be $29,000 at the 6% on this car note. So basically they're paying $4,000 in interest, or the other way to look at it, the bank is making $4,000 on that loan. So what's going on over here in your savings account, however? Well, your money in your savings account, that $25,000 at 4%, every year that you get the 4%, what's happening with the balance in your savings account? It's going up. So $25,000 the first year, plus the 4% for that year, it's going to increase the balance. And then the second year, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to pay you the 4% on that increased balance. So each year, that amount's going to get higher and higher that 4% is growing on. So at the end of the same 5 years, at 4%, that same $25,000 actually grows to be just over $30,500. So if we would have listened to the banker and we would have paid 6% while earning 4%, we would have actually made over $1,500. And the reason for that is because we have a depreciating, simple interest loan on one side, and we have a compounding uninterrupted return on the other side. So that's how we're able to make money paying a higher rate than a lower rate. So to Chris's point that we just talked about a second ago, when we look at that using a policy, we're going to do the exact same thing with your policy that a bank does with your money. So when we go and we borrow that money from our policy, and we'll show you this whole example in just a second, you're actually going to pay yourself back just like you would somebody else's bank. We call it being an honest banker. We call it treating your money like you would a bank's money. Okay. But here's and we'll get more into this in just a second, but I just want to show the point here. This is how we're able to make money. So if we're able to make money with those spreads, what does that look like when we're paying 5% right now, but our money's growing at 5.5%, and we're actually making a positive spread from day one? That $1,500 is going to be that much more that we're actually making within our banking system. So that's kind of like the real basics of it. Does that make sense though?
Can I just show it in numbers? Now, I just want to kind of bring them back a little bit. And I just happen to have this up because this is a client we've been working with. So these are real numbers, but I just want to show you what that looks like when in numbers. For some of you are numbers folks, and I just think this will be helpful. Now, there's a lot of numbers. Now, let me just we're going to talk about numbers later after we get through the entire concept. But sometimes I like getting, the dessert before I get dinner. How many of you like eating dessert before you finish your main course, right? All of you. It's a nice treat to be able to do that. So I'm going to give you the dessert. This is a client, and this is a whole process, that we basically walk through. But this client put roughly $440,000 in. Now, again, don't get hung up on the big numbers. This is just an example I happen to have. That number you could subtract a zero, add another zero, whatever you want. All I want you to do is understand these right here. This means end of year. EOY means end of year 1, end of year 2, end of year 3, end of year 4, end of year 5. So the worst thing about what we do and what we teach is that you're not going to have access to 100% of your money. In this scenario, what this person did is they put $440,000 in. This is very similar to that client that I talked about with the 500. Okay, they just had that money sitting in literally a savings account for a rainy day. They immediately take a loan for $348,996, and they lend that money out, and we'll just pick on a private money club loan, right? And do 13%, I think we used on this. So that loan principal is $348. Now, remember I said the insurance company is going to charge you interest on that loan. Here it is. Loan interest. That's the amount you're giving back to the insurance company. Now, $19,893 goes back to the insurance company. You have $38,777 remaining. So if I come down here and I start looking at the yearly gain, you made $45,369 by sending $348,000 to work. Okay, your average monthly cash flow is $3,781. Stay with me. Down here, what this is a snapshot. Capital deployed was $348,000. Yearly investment gain was $45,000, but we got to give 19 of that back to the insurance company. So the remaining policy cash value, the difference between the two, is $38,777. Net proceeds $413,250. Okay, that means you lost in your first year of doing this, using the policy, you lost 6.08%. In the chat, how many of you think that sucks? How many of you hate losing money? Like, just put sucks in the chat if you truly think that sucks to lose 6.08. But you know what? If this client were to die, if I'm not mistaken, $8 million is paid out to his family. So if this individual lost 6.08% the first year, but then he died and his family got $8 million, do you think his wife and his children are going to say, oh, that 6% loss sucked? But let's keep going. In 1 year in this policy design, the client does the same thing next year, puts $440 in, takes another loan, $381. Notice how that number goes up? Compound interest, baby, that's all it is. So now we've got loans of $730 out working for us. That's $730 working. $41,000 goes back to the insurance company, but you made $81. So you already know the math. If we come down to the bottom, year 2, you made 1.57. Now again, if you think 1.57% sucks, put sucks. I would agree. But at least you made money. And if you died, your family's not going to say 1.57% sucks. But see, Rick said that sucks. But see, now we had to wait 3 years of sucking. We had 3 years of pure sucking. And don't take that the wrong way, but year 1 sucked. We lost 6.8%, and I didn't die. My family didn't get the death benefit, so that sucked. Year 2, we only made 1.57%. That sucked because I didn't die. Year 3, exact same thing. All the same things happen. I'm accounting for all that loan interest, those greedy bastards of an insurance company charging me simple interest on that loan. There it is. I'm showing all the interest the insurance company is charging. This client made 8.36%. net after cost of insurance, after the pesky insurance company charged you the interest. And the next year, nothing changed, folks. We're doing the same thing every single year. The next year, this client made 15.34. How many think 15.34% sucks? None of you. and then 22.78. Notice how the number goes up, but we're not doing anything different here. Every year we're putting money in that stupid whole life. We're taking a loan from that stupid whole life. We're paying that stupid insurance company their simple interest, those jerks. And look at the numbers. 15.34, 22. Shall I keep going? Okay, here we go. Let's do year 6. 30%, 7, 44%, 66%, 90%, 118%. What? Come on, this is a scam. There's no way you can earn those kind of returns. Some of you are thinking that. You're thinking there's no way you can make 90%. Folks, there's the math. This is just pure mathematics. Forget about my opinion. Forget about anything. All you did here is the same damn thing every single year. You took the money that you were saving, you put it into a different place. You immediately took a loan from that insurance company. You paid them the interest. You made that money go to work at a rate of 13%, piece of cake on Private Money Club, and look at the returns. So I tend to look at this, Stephen, and all of you. I look at those numbers and I ask, why would anyone complain about giving up a little bit of return for 2 years when that's the result every year because of just pure mathematics? Doesn't mean the market did anything different. Doesn't mean that their stock went up or down. Doesn't mean that their real estate appreciated. Compound interest. That's all you saw happening right there. Time and money working for you.
Yeah, and it's, when you say it that way, like your money has to go somewhere to start. And I'll show you this in just a second, how we start building this banking system. But just, I'm real big on just looking at alternatives. So option A, option B, pros and cons, which way to go. So your money has to go somewhere. So most people would put their money into a bank when they want to do a private money loan like that. They take the money out of the bank, they do the private money loan, they make the, what were you doing, 12% there, Chris?
That was 13%. That was a Fuller deal. I literally, that's a real deal. I mean, that was
okay. So they make the 13% and then they put it back in their bank till they need it again, where it grows at 0.2, and then they take it and they make 13%. So it alternatively, that exact same scenario, how most people would do it, would be 13%, 13%, 13% growth on their money. Okay, that's not bad. It's not bad. But when we look at it using with the growth and the policy included, I mean, look at those returns. So but however, to get those returns in year 10, you have to start somewhere in year 1. Okay. So let's talk about how we start doing that. Is that cool?
Yeah. So I just thought that would be helpful because a lot of people, well, you got to pay the insurance company interest. I mean, if you made 66.36% in the 8th year, are you upset that you gave the insurance company 5%? No. And a lot of people then, what you should rationalize there and logically start thinking is, it's not about the 5.2 minus the 5 that we looked at on the whiteboard. You're just looking at the surface. It's about the compounding of the money at 5.2 that gets you those numbers. You see, so every year in that scenario, it wasn't a spread of 0.2. The spread got bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And that person didn't work any harder for that. That's the point. Sorry, Stephen, go ahead. I just get so fired up and excited about this stuff. Man.
Yeah.
Can't even contain myself.
No, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So how do we start building this? All right. So let's talk about the machine. So the machine being the vehicle that we use for this. Now you've heard us already talk about this tonight. So it's a dividend paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned insurance company. But I want to hit some stuff on this real fast because there's a lot of crap information out there. So just first off, just understand that this is a dividend paying whole life insurance policy from a mutual company, but it's not a policy that you would get from, somebody like in your networking group, or you go on like policygenius.com or call an insurance company and have an agent on the phone do for you, or someone in your network, someone that you've known forever, your brother-in-law or whatever. This is very specially designed and engineered specifically for you to be able to use this as a banking system. So there's a lot that goes into that. So when you talk with us, and we're going to share our scheduling link in just a second, so you can schedule a call with one of our money mentors, talk about your situation and exactly what this can do for you. And I'll share that link in just a moment. But when we do that, just understand a lot goes into that. So we're going to ask you some questions about where you are now, what you're trying to do, what you're using it for. The reason we're asking those questions, not because we really want to get to know you, which we do because it's important to help you plan this stuff out, but more importantly, we're thinking in our heads, how should we design this thing to make it the most efficient efficient and effective for your personal situation. So first off, understand every policy we build is different for every single person. And again, this thing is like nothing else out there that a typical agent would build for you. So first off, we give up 60 to 90% of the commission we would typically make on a whole life insurance policy to build it to give you the full benefits of it. Okay. So that's number one right there. Number two, we only work with specific companies that allow these policies to be built this way. All right. So there's a few things we look for. First off, the company has to be around for well over 100 years with a track record of over 100 years of paying constant, strong dividends. Why do we want that? Because yes, there's a guarantee on the policy, but guess what? That guarantee is not as strong as the annual dividends that the strong companies pay. So we want to work with companies that have strong dividends and strong history so we can bank on that in the future as well, get the most bang for our buck, so to say. Now, if it's just a guarantee, fine, you'll still work great, but we want to get the most bang for the buck. So that's number two. Number three, we want to be able to do what we typically want to use a company that's called non-direct recognition. And all you need to know when I say that word right there is that when you put your money in the policy and you immediately within 30 days pull that money right back out via the loan to use it for all this stuff that we're talking about, all of the money that you put in there is going to continue to compound uninterrupted. And that's what a non-direct recognition company allows you to do. And finally, we're going to use a whole life policy, not an IUL, not any of this other crap that these insurance companies that come up with out there to trick people. We're going to create a whole life. Why? Because it's simple. It's the lowest fees. It's the lowest cost of insurance. It's locking you in from day one at a certain cost. And there's no guessing games. You know exactly what you're going to get moving forward every day for the rest of your life. So those are a number. So there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes. So just keep that in mind as well. But so when we talk about building this policy, make sure you're working with our team, because not only are we going to build it right for you right now today for infinite banking, but we're also going to help you and we're going to teach you and we're going to hold your hand starting right now today for years and years and years and years to come. And we never charge for a dime for any of this. We make our small little reduced commission and we move forward. That's it, guys, just so you know. So I just want to make that very clear before we get any further. All right. So when we talk about whole life and you start researching, I know everybody goes on and Google stuff, right? So Google this, write this down, type in BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. So this is where we talk about how we're going to mimic what the banks do. We're going to act like the banks. We're going to become our own banker. So when we say that, like, why would you want to be a bank? All right. So when we start mimicking what the banks do, banks put their money in two different asset classes. All right. And you guys can search this, but two different assets. Do you guys know where those are? They put them over 90% of their M1 money supply goes into two different places. Do you guys know what those are? Number one is whole life insurance. So if you go Google BOLI, you'll see that banks put tons and tons of money into whole life insurance. How do they do that? Well, they do that very similar to how Jim was on earlier talking about company-owned life insurance. Banks do it the exact same way. They just do it on their key employees. And if you ever went into a bank and you wonder why everybody is like a vice president of something, it seems like they make even the tellers vice presidents these days. It's because when they put that person as a vice president, they're now a key employee, and now they can legally buy a whole life insurance policy on that individual. So banks are putting their money into these. The number two place banks put their money, real estate. So if you look at banks, any city in the United States of America, some of the most beautiful and most upkept new buildings, skyscrapers, at the top of those buildings, what is it? It's some kind of bank or financial institution. Or if you just drive down the road in any suburban area, rural areas, there's banks. It seems there's a branch every few miles, it seems like in some cases. Banks are taking their money and they're buying real estate with it. What we're teaching you here tonight is basically those two concepts, how to buy whole life insurance policies that way in your own life and then use them, and then how to start getting into some real estate, which we'll talk about during the last hour of this thing, and the importance of real estate. And I have so many examples of real estate and why it's so important, whether you have money or whether you need money, how real estate can solve that problem in a beautiful way. So I just want to hit that real fast. It's what we're doing with this. All right. So let's keep rolling with this. I just talked about who's used this in history. Let me just get past these slides. We're going to get right into how to start doing this. All right. So here's one of the things you're going to have to start thinking about. when you fund one of these policies, meaning, and when I say fund a policy, I'm talking about the premiums that go into that policy. You're going to hear us refer to that as deposits that go into that policy. Why do we call the money going into that policy a deposit? Well, because if you think about a premium, it has a negative mindset in your brain, okay? It creates a negative little ew. And because we've been programmed our entire lives to think, I have a health insurance premium due, or a car insurance premium due, or a whatever premium due. And it's like a bill, it's a negative in your life, okay? Well, guess what? The only way to create a banking system is to start putting these premiums into this new specially designed whole life policy. But it's not just a whole life policy. What is it? It's your new banking system, allowing you to be your own banker. So this one little mindset shift is going to change a lot of stuff. I'm big on mindset. I think you guys can probably see the screen behind me. So some of the books I would highly recommend: Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, Becoming Your Own Banker, anything by Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki, anything by Tony Robbins. Second Chance is a really good book. How Privatized Banking Really Works. But these are just some. So the reason we talk about mindset is because you want to start thinking like the wealthy. There's, even earlier in the chat box, like I started to see some negativity coming, and it's like, well, I don't have money. So we call them excuses, right? But we got to stop that. We got to start eliminating that stuff. So these little mindset shifts that we can make, these little mindset hacks, really do make a big difference in the long run. So start listening to audiobooks, positive stuff. It does make a big difference. All right. So back to how this is going to work for you. So when we talk about how to fund a policy through these premium deposits, you're going to have to decide how much to put into it. Okay. And so you got to start thinking, where is my money going now? And how can I reroute that into my new banking system first? So then I can use that money to do everything I'm doing anyways. So what does that look like in the real world? So if we take $1, everybody earns money. So if you take $1 that you earn, on average in this country, 20% of every dollar earned, 20 cents of every dollar goes towards an automobile, whether it's just maintenance or a car payment or insurance or gas or whatever. 30% of every dollar owned goes towards housing. So, whether that's the mortgage or I guess rent, it's probably 100%, but whether it's a mortgage or taxes, insurance, whatever, 30% of every dollar on average goes towards housing. 40 cents of every dollar that somebody earns goes to everything else. So food, travel, kids, leisure, whatever, which leaves 10 cents at the end of the day on average in this country that people save. Now, I think we all know, with double-digit inflation over the last couple of years and everything going on in the economy, and statistics tell us that those savings rates are actually going very smaller than 10% right now, and actually going negative. Savings are actually way down over the last 12 months, and credit usage and debt is really accumulating. The United States just passed $1 trillion in credit card debt right now for consumers. So it's crazy what's happening. And as interest rates go up, that debt's just starting to really amplify because rates are going up and up and up. So we're seeing this really go down right now. But at the end of the day, just historically speaking, this is an average. But what does this look like if we start making ourselves important? If we start realizing that every dollar that we make, we can be smarter with it. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, when I make $1, instead of paying everybody else first, I'm taking that dollar and I'm taking a certain percentage of that dollar that I earn, and I'm putting it into my own banking system first. And then I'm paying everything else. So let me show you in the real world what that looks like using this exact same example here. So let's say we start with putting that money into remember, your dollars have to go somewhere. So what if we put that into our own banking system first? What does this look like? All right. Well, by doing that right there, now what we can do is we can use our bank instead of somebody else's bank to purchase an automobile, for example. So what does that look like? So on average, 20 cents of every dollar for an automobile goes, or 20 cents of every dollar you own goes towards an automobile. Well, 5 cents of that 20 cents goes to interest. So by using our own banking system, we can now purchase a car with our own bank, and we're going to recapture that interest back into our financial lives. So that 5 cents that was going to somebody else is now going back to our bank. So what did that do right there by making that one change, paying ourselves first, and then using our bank to make purchases? Well, it just increased our annual savings by 50%. Because think about it. If we were saving 10 cents before, but now we're able to recapture that 5 cents and put that into our savings. So now we have 15 cents. That's a 50% annual increase in your savings by doing that one thing right there. But what if we extrapolate that out into other stuff in our lives? So how about mortgages? Did you know that 25 cents of every 30 cents spent on housing goes towards interest? Well, how is that possible? Have you looked at an amortization schedule lately? I looked at one earlier. It was unbelievable. And on a 30-year fixed mortgage at today's current rates, you pay double the purchase price of that loan in interest over the 30 years. And guess what? Banks get over 90% of the interest that you pay them in the first 7 to 10 years. And did you know that on average, Americans actually move or refinance their homes on average every 7 years? So the banks are getting almost 90% of the interest on a 30-year mortgage on average in the amount of time that people take to move to a new house. So they're getting all their money up front. So that's why 25 cents of every 30 cents goes to mortgages. So what if we were to purchase our homes with our own banking system and recapture that money back into our financial lives? Well, now we just increased our annual savings another 25%. So now we're up to a 40%. And then on average, 5 cents on everything else that we spend goes to interest. So while we're at it, let's just recapture that money as well. So by making one change right there, where our money goes first, and creating this banking system, we're now able, instead of bleeding out all that interest to everybody else on a regular basis, we're now keeping it within our family's financial lives, and we're starting to multiply, not only bleeding that money out, but multiply our savings, which year after year, when we look at compounding that money, it's exponential what this does for you financially.
I mean, when you're looking at this, I mean, that whole example just shows you the power of taking back the money that you're giving away. And, you know, one of the other things that, you know, once his camera comes back on that I really want to go over is I want to, you know, go over like how a bank actually moves the money the same way you're going to. And every single time a bank gives you interest on the loan, you must know that they're going to lend that money back out at a higher interest rate, making a spread, you know, which is why what Stephen was alluding to, banks make, you know, 400 to 1300% more than you do on your deposit you leave there, but yet people still leave their money there. And then they wonder why they feel like they don't have enough. They need more income, why they're financially strapped. I mean, inflation didn't help any of us in the last couple of years. It made groceries almost double. You know, I look at our grocery bill, it's literally double what it was just what feels like a year ago. Everything gets more expensive, but right now interest rates are more, and people have a kind of a good feeling because when they put money in some of those high interest rate savings, they're getting a higher interest rate. But don't be fooled, because you're getting a higher interest rate means you're paying more to the banks. So there's no, it's not like a gift that they're giving you 4% at Apple, 4.15% in the Apple high yielding savings account or whatever. They're giving you 4.15, but Apple would lend that money back out at probably 7, 8, 9, 10%. Traditional banks, all of them do the same thing. And everything you're seeing is we're just mimicking that. I showed you the numbers earlier on the spread. You're making a spread. Maybe not the first 2 years, but you're making a spread every year. You got to give up a couple of years to get for the rest of your life. Give up 2 or 3 years of gains to get returns for the rest of your life. And also, the other thing that's really important and why we always stress this is when you're making money. Now, if we get a lot of people coming to us and they say, well, I could make more money in the S&P 500. Now, first off, I laugh. Or I could make more money in an index fund than that whole life policy pays me. I always laugh at that. I laugh at that solely because you're kidding yourself when you're looking at it from that standpoint. Because we're not talking about the whole life policy or the index fund. We're talking about doing the whole life policy and the index fund. So if you like the market and index funds, great, do both, but make money twice. This is the problem that we have with so many people is they're just, their mindset just thinks one dimension. They can't see the fact that we're really changing nothing outside of where your money goes first. And you know, everything he was just talking about, where the money goes first is usually a bank account. And a lot of people just leave the money there waiting for the opportunity. But if you just shift it and then send it to work wherever you are for whatever, you end up benefiting like the numbers I showed you.
So if y'all haven't already heard about this book, it's called Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. It's actually even posted up here behind me on my big wall here. But in that book, Nelson talks about how all your deposits have to flow through somebody's bank. It's either your bank or it's somebody else's bank. And how we've been taught and just geared since day one is to be consumers of the central banks, right? What are we taught to do? Well, go to school, go get a good job, go work for your money, go put your money into a 401k, and then have the government take care of you for those passive retirement years of your life. Now, I don't use the word retirement because Nelson never believed in the word retirement, because retirement means that you stop serving God's children, in my opinion. But this is your passive years of life, right? And so all we're saying is that stop capitalizing other people's banks. Because what do those bankers do? They take your money, the depositor's money, and they lend it out to you or to other people, and they make a good living off of your money. So all I'm going to do is just flip the script. I'm just going to put my deposits into my bank, and then from my bank, I'll lend it out to myself or to other people. And then now I'll make the interest, profits, and dividends on myself. So you got to capitalize somewhere. It's either capitalizing your bank, or you're going to be capitalizing somebody else's bank where they're going to make the profits and the good living dollars on you. So it's just totally mindset. It's just a total 180 paradigm shift to what we've been conventionally taught. So start taking back that control. So anyways, if you want to know where the resource and all of these teachings come from, go right here to the book, Becoming Your Own Banker. So that's just one of my things I wanted to point out to y'all.
I love it. And folks, you know, we've been talking a lot and showing you a lot, and I always like visuals, right? And I loved it that Stephen had the visuals. So I just want to put this up here to show you, like, everything we're talking about can be drawn with a circle. So when you're looking at this, folks, everything we're talking about just starts with one change, and that's where the money goes, and it's a circle. It's just moving your money in a circle. But you notice when you create a circle, that whatever point you started in the circle, doesn't it always come back to that same point? Remember Monopoly? The coolest analogy that I've heard, and I don't remember who came up with this, was Monopoly. We've all played Monopoly, right? You start on go. You will go around the board. If you're lucky enough, you pick up a couple properties, put a couple houses on, then motels. But even if you don't, by the time you make it around the board, you pass go, as long as you didn't go to jail, and that would be stealing from your bank. You pass go, and what happened? Remember, you got paid every time you pass go, $200. So in this, even if you don't send the money to work, every time you go around the circle, 1 year, this is 1 year, okay, going around. Every time you pass go, and go means a new policy year, you get paid a dividend. And the next year, that dividend and interest is earning dividend, or is earning compound interest on it. But you see, in Monopoly, what the name of the game is and how you win the game is, as you go around the board, the circle, if you will, you stop off and you make that money go to work. Here we go, an 8% loan. This is a real example. This is old. Like, I've been using this one for a while. Really what this represented was one of the early policies that I set up with Brent Kessler. Back when I did that, I had a key bank line of credit that was charging me 8%. Okay. And I gladly paid it every single month. It was used for buying real estate, and, you know, I owed them some money. And what I did is I paid off Key Bank. So I took a loan from the policy, round and round. Okay, we go around the thing, but I stopped off and my money went to work, and I paid off Key Bank. So let's just pretend that this is Key. This isn't a great slide to use for that, but I no longer owed Key, so which means I no longer owed 8% to the bank, but I still continued to make the payment. The payment actually was $289 a month. That's how seared in my mind that debt is, because I used to give $289 a month every month away to the bank, and then all I did is I just took that $289 and I put it back in my policy as a loan repayment, which means it reduces the loan interest I'm paying to the insurance company, but nothing changes with how much money I'm getting. Every time I pass go, I get a dividend. I love that analogy because it just takes a very simple thing and puts it into something all of you can articulate. It's just a circle. It's all we're doing. The numbers are going to change in the circle, just like every time you go in around Monopoly board. You added some different things. You bought some houses. You added some motels on there. Hopefully you didn't land on somebody else's and have to pay them rent. You remember how that goes. So that is really what we're talking about here in its simplest form. Breaking news, this just in. Are you sick of having your money lying around not doing anything? Well, we've got the solution for you. PrivateMoneyClub.com. Back to you, Chris. I like showing this one. You guys saw me show the example earlier of 440,000. Some of you tuned out. So this is a real example. So this would be kind of more advanced planning. This was a real, this is a real estate investor. He saw a presentation just like all of you are seeing, and he came to us and he set up a call with our team, just like I put the link up a few times. And here, actually, just since I'm going to plant the seed, I'm going to put the link up. There's the link. So he scheduled a call with the team, and here was his situation. He was just getting into real estate. He wanted to buy some properties, and he was actually getting into notes because he just didn't have a lot of money, but he had about 70 grand saved up in his savings account. So what he decided to do is leave 20 in the savings for an emergency fund. He then took the other 50 and he dumped it into a policy. Okay. And then, because like I said, he was a young guy, his name was Kevin, he didn't have a whole lot of money a month. So he actually wanted to put $500 a month away. So you can see now we're talking about a small policy. He dumped in 50 and he wanted to put 500 a month away. Now, I know you are saying, wait, Chris, the screen says 491. Correct. Because we had to design it within the IRS rules. This is stuff that our team knows how to do, and many other agents, your broke-ass brother-in-law probably doesn't know how to build a plan like this that will not MEC or become taxable, but we do. But it required him to only be able to put 491.25 in. So just real quick, if you're doing the math, how much money did this person put in the first year? 50 as a dump in, which means he just moved 50 grand from his right pocket, the savings account, to his left pocket, his brand new fancy dancy specially designed whole life. And then every month he put 491 in. So at the end of the year, he put $5,895 in. Now let's play a little game. I want some of you to participate in this. We got 172 people left. I know these are long trainings, but this is good stuff. How many of you right now could use $50,000? Does anyone need 50 grand for anything? And Hannah, can you answer Carrie's question about what's IBC? Okay, so Alfonso, you need 50 grand. So let's just play the game. How much are you willing to pay Kevin for 50 grand, Alfonso? Are you willing to pay 10%? I'm just waiting for Alfonso to come in. 10%. We got a deal. So Alfonso needs 50 grand. Kevin's got 50 grand in his policy. Alfonso's willing to pay 10%. So now what's going to happen here is very simple. Kevin is going to go into his policy. He's got $51,000 available. He put in $55,895. He's got $51,554 available. So he's going to take 50 grand out as a policy loan, and he's going to give that 50 grand to Alfonso. Alfonso is going to pay him 10% on that money. Okay. Then what Kevin's got to do now is Kevin's got to come down here and do the math. How much money did Kevin actually make? Well, if we go to year two, Kevin puts $58,995 into the policy over the 12 months, which means in this policy design, now not everybody's policy is going to look like this. He was young, as you can see, 39 years old in year two. His $58,995 in the second year was $71,941. Now let's just pause there. Remember, it's the first year he put 55 in, but he sent 50 grand out to Alfonso, and Alfonso's paying him 10%. Not a bad day in the office, right? So he's got 50 grand working, but he's earning interest, not just from Alfonso's 10%, but he's also earning interest on the policy, because remember, his 50 grand never actually left the policy. It was the insurance company loaning him part of his death benefit and using his available cash value as collateral. Just trying to, I know you're getting this, but you notice I'm saying the same thing multiple times, so it really sinks in. But the second year, he puts 58 in and can take 71 out. Now, do any of you have a bank account? Just asking for a friend. Do any of you have a bank account, a high interest rate bank account, a money market account? It's got to be a guaranteed account that you could put $58.95 in and at the end of the year take $71.41 out. Because if someone does, I'll change this slide to be the bank that you're talking about. Yeah, Terry said, no way. No way. So how can that even happen? Well, because this is an insurance company. So if we really looked at the second year, the $58.95 growing to $71.41, he made $1,246. If you divide $1,246 into $58.95, you get a return called a cash on cash return, which is 21%. So if in the second year, Alfonso needed, got into that deal, used the 50 grand, but came up a little short, needed another 7 grand. So what we do is Kevin says, hey, Alfonso, I want you to get that deal done. I'll give you another 7 grand at 7 or at 10%. So now he's got 57 grand out. And how much did he put in? Well, 55 the first year plus another 58, but now he took 71 out. And that 71 he took out is making 21. But you know what? Remember I said the insurance company is going to get their piece. They're going to really ding Kevin's return. They're going to take 5% of that 21. If any of you are getting paid 21.14% from the insurance company cash on cash, but you got to give 5% back that year, are any of you upset? Again, just asking for a friend, making sure we're all okay with the math here. Nobody's upset about giving 5% to the insurance company when they made 21%, right? Well, the best part is this just keeps going. And I did this in this is 2 to 5. So you can see we went year, 58 turns into 74. The 10th year, 58 turns into 91. And here's your returns. I mean, any of these returns, is anyone upset about giving the insurance company 5%? I know this seems silly, and I know I keep driving this home, but do you know why I keep driving this home? Hannah knows why. It's because clients all the time, or prospects, not so much clients, because once they become a client and they get their policy set up, like we're working with them with our mapping team and helping them do all this. But this 5% interest that the insurance company charges is what a lot of people are hung up on. But when I put the math on the screen, none of you are upset about giving the insurance company 5% when you made 21, 26, 54, 115, 191, right?
Chris, let me add. Chris, because it's mindset. To go back again, it's just mindset. Because it's becoming your own banker. How should you think? You should think like a banker. What are loans to banks? Loans to banks are assets, right? They're assets to banks because it creates them cash flow. It brings them in money each and every month. 100%. You got to start thinking about your loans as assets to you. Stop thinking about in that consumer mindset. Okay, that's all I had to say. Bye.
Yeah, and again, you see the numbers, and then I put the numbers in the circle. You guys start seeing how this works. This is not complicated. The only reason it's complicated is because you make it complicated. Steven, sorry I took so much time. All you, man.
Yeah, no, it's good. We're kind of bouncing around here. I like it. It's fun. Where do you want to hit next? I mean, you want to get into some of the examples, paying off debt, buying cars? What do you think?
It's 8 o'clock, so we got another hour. So let's how about this? We got a bunch of people on here. Why don't we give them what they want? What does everybody want to learn? Don't put it in the chat because it'll go crazy. But over in the Q&A, why don't some of you tell us exactly what it is you'd like us to teach you about this concept? And it might be something very simple. Maybe you want us to go backwards and explain something that maybe we missed or maybe you didn't pick up on. But in the Q&A right now, just give us what you want us to do, even if it's your scenario. Like a lot of you have policies, or some of you are thinking about getting a policy. But when you're thinking about getting a policy, what problem are you solving? Tell us what the problem is. Like literally, let's go live and solve some real problems right here. We can go through the slides all day, and it's good, it wows you, but like let's do some real life shit here. That's what I like doing.
Yeah, while we're talking about, let's hit the taxes real fast. So when so the money going into the policy is going to be after tax dollars. And here's the beautiful thing about that is once the money is in the policy, all of that uninterrupted guaranteed compounding growth that you receive is all tax-free for the rest of your life. And when you're taking the money out of the policy, here's the other beautiful thing. It comes out in the form of a loan. So that means loans. Do you pay taxes on loans? No. So all that money you're pulling from your policy to use, you're not paying any taxes on that either. And then at the end of the road, when we move on to the next place, that death benefit is all going to go to our loved ones, our beneficiaries, 100% tax-free as well. So we get it in there and then we forget about taxes. And then the money that we're moving and making more money with, we're being very smart using companies, using trust, using active tax strategies, all stuff we teach you guys through Money School on our Wealth Webinar Wednesdays that Hannah was talking about, stuff like that. We save money on those taxes at that point. And that is a great question, whoever was asking about the taxes.
I love. My problem is I don't have patience. I have a burning desire to have multiple policies. Give me patience. Whoo-wee. I don't know if we can give you that, but we certainly will do the best. So I don't know, Hannah, and Steven, look over at the comments. We got a couple. Jody wants to know how to buy a car. Piece cake. We could certainly show that. And I think the best way to show that, Steven, is just with the slides.
You see my screen?
That your car?
That's my sexy new vehicle. Guess how I just bought it?
Why
Ooh,
don't,
nice.
yeah, we should show how you bought that. We should use real numbers.
Isn't she sexy?
She
All
is
right, just take a moment. All right, we're done.
All right, so Jody wants to know how to buy a car. Absolutely. We're going to knock that out and we're going to do it quick. Some of you have seen it, but listen, I've bought a ton of cars using this. Brent has bought every car he has using this. You know, Steven and Hannah's just buying that car. And I think she bought the Winnebago. Is that what you call it? The Winnebago using this. So we've all bought in a lot of cars. And sometimes we just don't think anyone wants to hear about buying cars anymore. So we'll cover that. Sarah wants to learn about real estate. And no, I don't have a policy. So Sarah, can you be more specific? What would you like to learn about real estate? Because real estate's pretty vast. I mean, there's so many aspects. So what would you like to learn about real estate? And we got one that says, does this work in Canada? 100%. I'll have Hannah put the link up for the person we work with, Jason Lowe in Canada. So 100%. We got Hardy said, how would you combine this process with paying off, I think that's supposed to say debt, and access to a HELOC and PMC? We can definitely hit that, Hardy. I'll just draw that on the board. Can you spend and recapture the same money that's available? I'm going to mark that one. We're going to cover that. The name of the book again, that's easy. Let's see. Do you keep separate bank accounts every time you take out a loan for the policy? So Aaron, when we're talking about the segregated account, and Stephen, I'm just going to give a visual for Aaron here because we can knock this one out. In the middle, you all notice this thing says segregated bank account. It's one bank account and it's a separate bank account than your regular checking. So what we always suggest people do is, you know, they go to their bank, whatever bank they're comfortable with, and just open up a new checking account. And then in your mind or on your checkbook, or, you know, when you retitle the name of the account on your online banking, just write IBC segregated account. So why do we do that? Because we want your private banking money, your infinite banking money, to flow through one separate bank account. So you have books and records. So here in this example, I put 23,000, I take it from my policy and it deposits in my segregated account. Okay. So now I know I took a loan for 23 grand. I got the entry in my bank account. Then I take 23,000 out and I loan it in Private Money Club at 12%. So now I got 23,000 going into the bank account. I know that's a loan for my policy, 23,000 going out of the bank account. I know that money's being loaned on Private Money Club, books and records. And then every payment I get from that loan that I made goes back into the segregated account so I can track and see how much I have. Now that could help for taxes. That could just help you figure out, did anyone miss a payment? Is anyone late on a payment? And then from there, what I do, and this is a little different than what Brent does, is I take every payment that comes into the segregated account from my money working, and I send it back to the insurance company as a loan repayment. Why? Well, some might say because I'm cheap, because I don't like the insurance company charging me interest on money that I have sitting in somebody else's bank. So as quick as I get it in the segregated account, I try to move it back out and pay that loan down. Why? Well, because I save a little bit in interest, but other reason is the money's just as liquid in my policy as it is in the segregated account, the bank. And I just don't like banks. So that kind of answers that one. So let's do this. Let's go back up to the top. And Stephen, can you walk Jody through how to buy a car with this?
Yeah, definitely. All right.
And then after Stephen goes, I want to answer Stephanie's question here in the chat because I think it's very important. We should touch on it.
Cool.
So I called it next.
You got it.
Cool. All right. So how to get back all the money for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own. All right. So we're going to take a look. While we kind of show you this, we're going to start showing you some pieces of the policy as well, and just some of the basic terms that you're going to see when you get started with all of this. All right. So you can see this is the machine. Chris has shown a few examples. This is what will be called an illustration. So when you start a policy, they create an illustration, the insurance company, that basically shows you all the money going into the policy. It shows you all the growth of the policy, all the death benefit, all that good stuff. And then you'll see a couple other columns on here that have to do with purchasing the car and recapturing that money. Those extra columns are what our mapping implementation team does with you once you have the policy. So let's say you schedule a phone call from the link that we've been posting in the chat box. Well, you're going to have a consultation with one of our money mentors, and they're going to help you decide, how much to fund a policy with and how to get it started. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start an application. what's called the approval process. And this could take a few weeks, a couple months, depending on different health and stuff like that. But you're going to go through the approval process. And once you're approved, that's when you're going to take one final look at your policy and say, okay, everything looks great. I'm ready to go ahead and get this started and become the bank. And that's when you're going to sign it. And you're going to send the insurance company your first premium deposit, which puts the policy in force. Okay. At that point, you're going to go right over within a few days, typically, to what's called our mapping implementation team. And let's just say that at that point, you're like, hey, you know what? I want to buy a car with this policy. Well, they're going to create a plan, just like you see on the screen here, for how you can purchase the vehicle with your policy. And then they're going to show you how you're going to recapture all that money. So you're going to receive something similar to this, but just wanted to point out a few things on this while we have it up here. So first off, I mentioned the premiums. We call them deposits. In this case, it's $10,000 a year. Again, it's up to you how much you want to put into this thing. You know, as a guideline minimum, we typically would recommend like 10 times your age on a monthly basis. So I'm 40 years old. So like if I was starting and just kind of thinking like, well, what is the least amount I can kind of do this where it makes sense? I'd want to put in like $400 a month or $4,800 a year. Chris is like 55 now or something. So we'd want to put, just kidding, Chris. But you guys get the point, right?
46 this month, 46 in a
right.
week, I think about a
Well,
week.
you know, let's say you're 20 like Hannah, you want to put, you know, at least like 200, 250. All right. So anyways, so you decide how much you want to put in. And as you saw on some of the examples, you can put in a larger amount up front too. So if you have some money sitting at a bank doing nothing for you, dump it in the policy. You don't have to put that large amount in every year moving forward. Now, if you can, do it, but you know, you don't have to. If you got 50 grand from something sitting there, dump that in there and do 10. What was the other guy that we did that example? $500 a month. So we can design it almost however you want. Just keep that in mind. All right. Number two, age doesn't matter. So we do these policies for kids, which if we have time, I'd love to show you Vivi's policy. Chris's daughter. I have one for my son that's very similar. So these things are awesome for very young people up through teens. The cool thing for kids is not only are you setting them up for the future financially, more importantly, you're teaching them banking principles. You're teaching them finance. You're teaching them about money. I mean, money's such a taboo subject for so many people. I mean, I grew up, I don't know, Hannah, you grew up in a little place in Kansas. Maybe your dad was already into this stuff and taught you about it. But like, I grew up in a small little country town in Virginia where everybody kept their doors open. And guess what? It was a beautiful way to grow up. But guess what? One thing we never talked about, money. Nobody knew how much other people made. It was like one of those taboo things. But I want to teach my son different. I want to teach my son from right now today, when he's 7 years old, how money works. And then up through buying his first car with the policy, how to become the bank. Like, it's powerful stuff, not only the policy, but again, more powerful is this process and this system that we use. We do policies for people in their 60s and 70s. Every single day. So age doesn't matter. Health can make a difference. But even if you're like 80 years old, or even if you just know you can't qualify for a whole life policy, we do have other solutions for that. You can still own the policy, have it on somebody else's life, a spouse, a business partner, a child, something like that. So we do have other solutions. Just want to point that out also. Number three, the death benefit. I think we've talked about the death benefit like a total of one time in the last 2.5 hours. The reason for that is we build these for banking purposes, but that death benefit, is it kind of nice to have? I think it is. And I never really thought that way until my son started getting a couple years old. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm married, I have a family. Like, what does that look like down the road? And you start thinking about that. And so, you know, I don't know, but as I'm getting older in life, like that death benefit is becoming more and more important. At least to me personally. So it's nice to know that it's there, even if it's not the reason while we're doing this. All right. So let's just keep rolling. All right. So here's the example of how this works. So this individual started a policy, putting $10,000 a year into it. In the third year of the policy, they decided that they wanted to buy a car for $25,000. Now I'll point out on the screen over here, we see the cash value in the money multiplier account. That's just the money that's available to loan out. It's called the cash value, and that'll be shown on your illustration. So in this case, in the third year, they had $29,000 available. They took $25,000 of it out to buy a car. They have $4,000 now available in that money multiplier account. So they take that $25,000 and they go buy a car with it. All right. So $25,000 comes out for the car purchase, which, by the way, we have one of our money mentors. His name is Mr. Burr on social media. If you don't follow him on Instagram, go check him out. Devin Burr. but he just used this exact same strategy, doing this exact same thing, but he bought a $250,000 car with his policy. So if you want something fancier, just add a zero. It's very simple. So this works for literally any amount of money. Okay. So in this case, though, $25,000 car. And then just like we talked about before, being an honest banker, you're now going to recapture that money. So if we were to go to a bank and borrow $25,000, we would repay ourselves around $500 a month, which would be $6,000 a year. So you can see right here in this column, the car loan repayment, we just start paying ourselves back. All right. So what does this look like? At the end of 7 years, we put a total of $70,000 through premium deposits into the policy. We bought a car for $25,000, and then we recaptured $6,000 a year over 5 years. That's the $25,000 plus interest. Remember, we treat our money just like the bank's money. So we're going to pay ourselves back with interest, just like we would the bank. So that's the $30,000. So at the end of 7 years, we put 70,000 in, we recaptured 30,000, and we spent 25,000 for a grand total of $75,000. Now you'll see over here in that right column I mentioned earlier, the cash value at those 7 years after recapturing the money, we have $67,000 available. So at the end of the day, we put 75,000 in and we have 67,000 available. So if I do the math here, that's 91%, 91 cents of every dollar that we spent to buy that vehicle, we just recaptured back into our financial lives. So we recaptured 91% of that car. Plus we have the car sitting in our driveway now, paid for free and clear, that we can sell. And I mean, we'd end up making money if we sold it for more than $5,000 or more than $8,000, or we can just keep it, right? All right. But here's what happens though, is do these policies stop in 7 years? No, these are whole life insurance policies, meaning they're going to go on forever. Okay. But for this example, we just decided to stop putting money premium deposits into this thing in the 8th year. Can you do that? Yes. Would you ever want to do that? No way. Because when you see what these policies do when you get to years 8, 9, and 10, like Chris showed earlier with that example, how when you start doing the private lending in the 10th year, they're like 400% returns. Why would you ever want to stop putting money into this thing when you're seeing those kinds of returns within the policy? So you never want to stop putting money into it, but just for this purpose, I want to show you how powerful this is. Even if we never put another dollar into this thing, we buy another $25,000 car in the 8th year. Now, again, we're still going to treat our money like the bank's money. So we're going to recapture that money over the next 5 years, $500 a month. So at the end of the day, we put no new money in premium deposits. We recaptured 30,000, but we spent 25,000 of that for a net of $5,000. So what do we have over here? We have $91,000 sitting in our account. So if I do the math here, I have 2 vehicles worth $50,000 free and clear, and I have $91,000 in my account ready to do whatever I want to do next. So if I look at it this way, I've just recaptured every single dollar for both those cars that I purchased in that amount of time. I mean, it's any questions on that? It's pretty free and clear. Now to do that, there's 3 basically rules that you have to follow to make this happen. Okay. So number 1, we always want to pay ourselves first. So again, put your money into your banking system first. That allows us to do this. Number 2, always recycle and always be an honest banker and recycle and recapture our money. So let me show you these. Pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, like we talked about, and always recycle and recapture your money, be an honest banker. Now, here's the difference in this. If I was to go to BMW or Ally Financial and borrow money to buy a car, and in the 4th year of that thing, 5-year loan, I'm in like the 58th month, and I'm like, I'm almost there. And then boom, something financially happens or something happens in my life and I can no longer make those last payments on that car. What's going to happen? Well, the bank is going to send a tow truck driver and they're going to repossess my car. They're going to take that thing away from me for not making those last few payments. But here's the difference in this. When I'm the bank, who's in charge of that money that I'm paying myself back? I am. So what I'm going to do is if I run into financial trouble in a couple of years from now, a few years from now, I'm going to go look in the mirror and I'm going to say, hey, Stephen, you know what? I borrowed money from you, but I've ran into some financial hard times and I can't pay you for a few months. Is that okay? Might even be up to a year or 2. Maybe I can never pay you back. Is that okay? And I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and I'm going to say, you know what, Steven, you're a good guy. I really like you a lot. So do whatever you want. Start paying me back again whenever you can, if you can again in the future. And I kind of joke about that, but is it true? Think about it. You're in complete control. So when you take a loan from that policy, there's no terms. The insurance company doesn't require you to pay it back monthly, require you to pay it back quarterly, annually. They don't care. Because what are they doing? They know that you're barred against your death benefits. So they're going to pay that out one day anyways. So they don't care. So they say you have complete control. So when I take a loan, if I'm going to buy, like Hannah's going to do when she buys a Bronco, she's going to pay herself back monthly, just like she would pay a bank. When we do an investment, if I go buy a flip, you know what? The beautiful thing is I'm in control of that loan. So instead of having to pay a private money lender monthly and bleed out my cash flow, I'm going to wait till that flip's done and pay myself back all at once. But the bottom line is you are in complete control. You set those terms, but we will help you with this. So back to that mapping implementation team. They're going to create this plan for you. If you run into any issues, challenges, they're right there to reset it for you. They're right there to say, okay, well, let's pause it for a few months and restart it later on. So you have somebody there helping you be an honest banker all along the way as well. And if this works for a car, what else can it work for?
All right. No, I thought this was a good one. So I'll give my thoughts on it. And actually, before I said that and after I said that, I noticed that Nagy kind of also already answered this in the chat box. But let's kind of just hit on it again. So Stephanie wrote in and she says, hey, I currently wholesale. It's my primary source of income, and she finds it to be a feast throughout the year. She has young kids and it's not super consistent. So she feels like when her premiums come due, she's somewhat scrambling to find the method to put the payment into the policy to keep paying the premiums. And so what she did is she took out a loan from her first year's policy to pay for her second year's premium, which you can do that. But anyway, she just kind of wants the feedback about how to keep paying this premium that keeps coming due each and every year. And this is kind of my third time talking about it, but I think it all comes back to the mindset. And I guess I'll tell you practically what I do personally in my life to keep myself disciplined. But as Brent always teaches us, and as how Dad always taught me at a young age, is you always got to pay yourself first, right? It doesn't matter how much money that you make. It only matters about how much money that you keep. So when I pay myself first, when I get money that comes into the door, I take a sliver of that. I personally do anywhere from 10 to 30%. So I recommend at least 10%. Take a sliver of that and just set it to the side. That is you. Do not touch that money. Okay. That is you paying yourself first. And that should be the premiums that go inside of this policy. Now I get it. Life goes on and life happens, but let's be real, y'all. All right. So I'm kind of here to be effective in your financial life. All right. So this may become a little across a little blunt, but you got to make the changes within your life or it's not going to change for yourself. If you're not willing to pay yourself first in that instance, nothing else is going to change with what you got going on. So, I don't know. It's just a mindset shift where you really got to be in control of how to handle the financials in your life. So I don't know. So, and Nagy, I saw you kind of touch on that a little bit too. Also, it kind of reminds me too, Naugle, you have a really good YouTube video on this. You have a YouTube video out there. It's called, "Hey, what would I do if I make 50,000 a year?" And I think that it inhabits some good principle and habits within your financial life that I think a lot of people got to see.
You're absolutely right. And listen, I know we're throwing a lot of numbers out there, 10,000 in premium deposits, 440,000 in premium deposits, 5,000 in premium deposits. Your number is your number. We don't tell you how much it is. Now, I also struggle, like Hannah, I feel like that story of that woman is me. My whole life revolves around monthly cash flow. That's just, I get paid monthly. I pay my bills monthly. I'm very used to monthly. So a lot of my policies, and for all of you, I have 9 policies just on me. I have a few on my mom, a few on Larissa, and 1 on Vivi. Most of my policies are funded monthly. So the premium deposits I make are monthly. It automatically comes right out of a bank, out of the account. So if I get paid monthly, I sweep that money right into my policy. Now, some people say, well, that's silly because you end up losing money because the insurance company takes what they call a load if you do it monthly. So they take a little bit. But I urge a lot of you to think, like in this woman too, I know I'm losing a little bit to the load, but the money's still getting in the policy. I know the numbers of the policy. So if I give up 10 bips, 10 basis points, to put the money in monthly, I'm more than making it back, because the alternative might be that I run into a problem. I had one policy many years ago that was annual. The premium deposit came exactly when my tax bill came, exactly when my property tax bill came. I got like a trifecta. So I called the insurance company and I said, hey, I need to change the mode, and I changed it to quarterly. I've never changed that one back. So how you should fund your policy is is only the best way that you can save money. So another way to do it, if you want to avoid the load that the insurance company charges, is kind of what Hannah said. Build a system, set up a separate bank account, set up a sweep, like a transfer. You can go in any online banking, you can set up a transfer, figure out how much you'd have to save monthly to make your annual premium, and just sweep it every month, out of sight, out of mind. Follow law number one, of wealth, and that is keep 10% of the money you make. Just sweep it into that bank account. Then every year, when your premium comes due, you go into that separate bank account, which you don't have a debit card for, okay, because you don't want to tap into it, and all the money's there to make your premium deposit, and then you don't have to pay the insurance company. But I would argue then you give the bank the use of that money for a year, so which one's better? But you're right, like there's so many ways you do it, but the only way that's going to be best for each of you is your way. What works best for you to create your banking system? And when we create this for folks, we don't create it because we don't say you have to do it this way or you have to put this much in. We ask the questions. And any of you that have booked a call or are going to book a call with this link that I'm going to put up for you right now, because that's what you do to, and listen, when you get on the phone with us, we're not going to try to sell anything. We're just going to answer your questions, and we're going to walk through your scenario, and we're going to solve your problem. That's what we do. And at the end of every call, you're going to ask us to help you. You're literally going to say, we're going to ask you any more questions, and you're going to say, nope, I think you answered all my questions. Great. Well, if there's anything more we can ever do to serve you, let us know. And then you're going to say, well, can you help me set up the policy? Yes, we'll help you. You see, we're providing so much value and we're really solving your problem. So we don't feel like we have to ask for your business. We almost feel the opposite way. And some of you might kind of think it's weird. We kind of want you to ask us to help you with that, because that's the way it should be. If we solve your problem, then ask us to help you solve the problem. And I think that's the better way. But we certainly design each and every single policy around your specific needs and goals, not around what we think, not around what we do, but around what your needs and goals are. And you just tell us that in the call.
Hey, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I saw a couple questions on there about IUL versus whole life. So is there somebody that can put in the chat box of how they can go and watch all the information we have out there comparing whole life versus IUL?
Oh, there's so many good ones. Yeah, I'll just, while we're kind of going into some of these other questions, I'll pop it up there for everybody.
And then also there's quite a few questions of people asking, how do you start? And I think you just kind of covered that, but I don't know if you want to.
There's the link to book a call.
Okay.
Right. So Stephen, do you want to look at some of the questions in the Q&A? There's a lot of good ones, and let's just see what ones we can answer.
Yeah. I mean, just the ones you have marked here. Can you spend and recapture the same money that's available each year? So I think maybe that's asking how many, can you take multiple loans? Is that what they're asking?
I mean, I don't even understand the question, but I'll say this. Every dollar that goes into the policy, it stays in your family. So all that money is recycled and recaptured, and it comes back to you. There's no money being leaked out to other people. So the answer is yes, because the money is in a closed system. It's in a closed system. It's not being leaked out to other people. It's the same thing we show you when you watch the money multiplier map about how you're going to take the debt and pay that down and recycle and recapture all that money. It's the same way we show you in the presentation on the car example. So like how to buy, drive, and own your car, and not only get the car, but also get the money back. And if you're able to do that for a car, guess what else you can do it for? Any product or service that you buy. It doesn't matter if you buy a pack of Tic Tacs or a $10 million mansion, you can recycle and recapture all of that money as it stays within your family. And if you guys have not watched the full 90-minute presentation, okay, so that's on this concept, then you definitely need to go watch that. That will answer so many of your questions. And then, yes, there probably is going to still be a few more questions after you watch it. So that's when you schedule the strategy call. And I think like either like Chris, Stephen, or Hannah, they have put in the link of how to schedule the strategy call. I just go say, okay, contact Stephen Nagy. It's snagy@themoneymultiplier.com. And Stephen will schedule the strategy call with you. He will do the call with you. And if he can't do it, Chris will do it. Hannah will do it. Somebody on the team will do it. So Nagy, because his first name is Stephen, snagy@themoneymultiplier.com. So you guys should be blowing up his inbox right now to schedule strategy calls with Stephen. I'm telling you guys, the more that you learn about this and the more you get around the campfire and drink the Kool-Aid, this stuff is just powerful. And so especially once you get those policies into the third year and beyond, so nobody ever quits after they get past the second year. Why would you? Because the growth of the policy, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger each and every year. The only time that you will ever quit or stop paying your premium into this whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends is if you have a severe financial catastrophe or disaster, and it happens within the first 2 years. But even if that happens, there's so many other solutions and a way to get around it. But once you get to that third year and beyond, see, there's Daisy right there, the cat. She's getting all of this. She says, that's right, Brent, Grandpa Brent. Well, no, what's he not Grandpa Brent? I would be.
Yes, you would. She'd be grandpa.
I would be. I would be Daisy's grandpa because Daisy is your daughter, Hannah, right? Your cat daughter. So I would be the grandpa. But anyway, so even Daisy is piping up there in the screen saying, that's right. You would never, ever want to quit putting money into this whole life policy because of the growth that's going on in the policy. And that's not just us telling you that, that is in your policy contract. Every one of you that has a policy that's on this call, okay, all of your contracts, it shows you what the growth is. So before you ever sign, pay, and accept the policy, all of those numbers are there for you to see of how the policy is exactly going to work. All right, it's all for me.
I love this question. I got to just hit it. Anna said, if you pull out dividends, will the IRS tax you on the dividends taken out, or is this a way to earn interest on the dividends once I take it out? So you could take dividends out, but dividends from an insurance company, the way that they're looked at from the IRS is the dividend is a return of unused premiums. Dave Ramsey says this is a bad thing. I think it's freaking brilliant. I mean, if you just are giving back unused premiums, not taxable. But if you're giving profits to the shareholders in a dividend stock, that's taxable. You see, it brings the point up that Stephen brought up earlier. The wealthiest individuals out there use this. He gave you many of the names, and there's so many more. Why? Well, because this was created, this entire system was created for the wealthy. The tax code benefits life insurance. The only changes to life insurance from a tax perspective were in 1988. And that was when the MEC rules were put in place because, well, the wealthy individuals were severely abusing whole life. They were taking hundreds of thousands, if not millions, if not billions, dumping them into whole life, and then only taking out like a $50,000 death benefit. I mean, those were the frickin' days. I mean, you dump all that money in, that money starts earning interest and dividends. It's all tax-free, and you don't have really any cost. And they came up with the MEC rule. And the next change just happened I think a year ago or a year and a half ago, time flies, 7702, which actually helped what we do because it gave the policies more growth in the later years. So those are the only two changes to the tax code ever with life insurance. And that begs the question of why is that? Well, if we got any CPAs on here, I think you know, because this is where the wealthy put their money. And of course, they're going to protect where their money's at, and they're not going to tax their own money. So why would they ever jeopardize their safe haven place where the money is? Well, they wouldn't. They wrote the darn tax code. I think it's just an awesome question.
Good. All right. Hey, I got a few things. So actually this kind of reminds me that this style right now. So everybody, we do this every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to Naugle's YouTube page, or you can join our Facebook group. We go live in there, but we just rapid fire question and answers, and folks will hop on, ask these questions, and we'll answer them with a panel of us. So all right, there's two in the chat that I kind of want to talk about, and actually one that I kind of added on. So somebody asked about like, hey, did you talk about the surrender charges? And the surrender charges, that lingo really comes from IUL policies and kind of that whole world. So just so we understand here in the community, in a whole life insurance contract, surrender charges are your cash values. So actually, let me say it this way. There's no surrender charges inside of a whole life insurance contract. The surrender value equals your cash value. So it's not like an IUL product that's out there that has these surrender fees and surrender charges that, hey, if you cancel or surrender that policy, surrender honestly just means canceling the policy. So if you cancel, AKA surrender the policy, then you're going to get dinged, or you're going to get hit with some fee that we're not going to give you that full cash value of that policy. So no, none of that exists inside of a whole life insurance contract. Now, something else I want to point out, y'all, if you really go back through history, whole life insurance, the product itself, has been around longer than our tax code has even been here. Our tax code's only been here since 1913. And in my honest opinion, I think our economy was better off without it, because there was actually a surplus in the economy, but we don't got to get into that whole big discussion. But whole life insurance has been around for that long that it's tried and tested this amount of time. The Civil War era, the Great Depression, the 2008 era, right? So just to go back and kind of comment on those IUL versus whole life type of conversation, because I know when you go out there and you start researching the infinite banking concept, there's going to be gurus that are out there talking about these index universal life policies. So just go back through history and see what's really going on, and track the people, track the elite people that are out there and really what they're doing with their money. Because all it is, you just got to track and mimic and imitate exactly what the elite and the wealthy folks are doing. And here's my question. Are conventional banks buying IUL policies? No. Who's the number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world? It's conventional banks. Okay, so go
always
look
has been whole life. And, you know, and I hate to call out this guy, and I'm not going to give his last name, but some of you on YouTube can figure it out. It's got a first name of Doug. And then there's another jackass on YouTube too, that they're saying that banks are buying IULs. Please, can somebody just do me a favor? Can you find anything in the entire universe of Google and information out there of any one bank in the United States that buys IULs? Please just find me one bank. Yeah, because it makes me sick when they say that they say the same thing. They literally steal our slides and say, oh, banks are the number one purchasers of life insurance in the world. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But then they start talking about IULs. It's like a bait and switch. It's like life insurance. And they're like, oh, IUL. It's awful, folks. Look it up. Banks
Chris,
only buy whole life.
Hey, Chris, I want to add one point to the whole IUL conversation. Anybody that tells you about IULs and how they can use this for the infinite banking concept, here's what you need to ask them. Have them to show you the policy illustration of an IUL policy. And on the guaranteed side of that illustration, I want you to look at those values. And those values do not increase. They do not increase for the life of the policy. They go down. The cash value goes down, the loan availability goes down, and the death benefit goes down. They can go all the way to zero, where you have lost every dollar that you have put in because the cost of insurance cannot keep up with the policy. It just can't happen. And if it can, then have them show you on the illustration where you have a guaranteed growth each and every year, no matter if the insurance company pays a dividend or not. You have a guaranteed growth in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. You do not have that in an IUL. So for all of those people out there that love IULs, here's what I suggest you do. Go and take your money and you put it in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends, and then invest it into an IUL and see how well you do, because you're taking on a huge risk when you put money into an IUL. There's no other way. There's no way to sugarcoat it or say it any other way. And if anybody tells you that's not the truth, then just say, okay, let me, okay, then all you got to do is say, then I want you to show me on an IUL illustration how it's guaranteed to never lose value, and it will always, always, always increase. It's not possible. It won't happen. It does not exist. Or what you could do, and again, I always love to do this just for fun and games, have them connect with Stephen or Chris or Hannah, have that agent, that IUL agent. So get that IUL agent on the phone after they've watched our full recorded presentation. And now let's have the debate, not really a debate, or a discussion on IUL versus a whole life policy. Let me just tell you, Hannah, Stephen, Chris, all the producers on our team, they will grill that IUL agent like a cheeseburger. They will make them like disappear quicker than a fart in a fan factory. You just need to go and get the information and see it and watch what's really going on. Because if you really, really know what's going on, then you'll know what to do.
I think, okay, so honestly, and sorry, Dad and I get a little loud, all right? And sometimes Mom gets mad at us because we get a little loud, but I think we just feel so passionately about this just because there's so much misinformation, and there's the web now, right? And so everybody's got a YouTube page, everybody's got a blog post page and their websites, and there's just so much misinformation that's out there. So I just want y'all, so at the end of the day, don't take our word for it. Go out there, go do your research, go do your diligence, and just go do your explorations on this stuff. All right, my last thing on this. All right, so a question that I get sometimes, okay, so if we're kind of talking about products though, sometimes people will ask me, well, Hannah, when I die, pass, or graduate, do I get the do I get the cash value of that policy? So I just want to talk about this, kind of getting more into the technicals for my analyticals here on the phone call. But I mean, yes. Okay. So we got to understand that inside of a policy, the cash value is nothing more than a prepayment of our death benefit. So number examples, okay? So let's use number examples. Let's just use very easy numbers. Let's say that you have $1 million of death benefit on your body, and at the time of your passing, you have $600,000 of outstanding loans on that policy. Well, what's going to happen is the insurance company, they're going to take your $1 million of death benefit and then subtract the $600,000 of outstanding loans that they've already given you while you were here, while you're living. If you don't have any loans outstanding on that policy, well, then your beneficiary is going to get the full $1 million in death benefit. Okay, so I just want to kind of touch on that because I think I saw a comment about that in the chat, and it kind of touches on the theory of the buy term and invest the difference world, which we should link the response video that we maybe have as I'm thinking about it too.
Yeah, I've just been answering a bunch of questions. We had questions about trusts. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not a trust expert. I'm not an attorney. Consult with your attorney and CPA on what I'm about to say. But there's a lot of folks out there slinging around trusts, saying, if you open up a trust, and they're not quantifying or clarifying what kind of trust. Cash, I'm trying to talk. Can you please get out of the way? Whoa. Anyway, I don't know if you guys see the the lazy cashier, but he's trying to take over the show. But they're trying to sell you a trust to make money selling you the trust, but then they're trying to sell you a policy, and they say if the beneficiary of the policy is the trust, sorry, getting it straight, then the premiums are tax deductible. That is not true. The policy must be owned and the beneficiary. You have to be completely disconnected from the policy. The trust corpus has to be the owner and the beneficiary in order for it to be a tax write-off, because then it's an expense of the trust. And I know, Todd, I think you probably were trying to say the right thing, but just be very cautious, folks. If somebody's trying to sell you based on tax deductibility because a trust owns it, know that they're probably trying to sell you a trust, and consult with your attorney on the legal ramifications, or even get yourself a tax attorney to review that, because that's a big thing that you can get into hot water really, really quickly on, because even if the policy owns it and you do tax deductibility, there's a lot of rules. And I just feel a lot of people that are trying to sell policies based on that, like tax deductibility, they're steering people down a really dangerous, slippery slope that will end poorly for many, many of these folks. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it takes proper structuring in order to make that work. And that should not be the primary focus of why you do this. I'm just being clear on that.
I was just throwing some different links in the chat box. Just we have 3 different shows tomorrow that you can join us for. A couple of them you watch either on YouTube or the Facebook channel, so I threw those up there for you guys. We do have an event coming up in a couple of weeks. If you're in the Carolinas, we have an event in Raleigh that Chris and I will be at, as well as several of our money mentors and actually one of the insurance companies. And so if you're around, definitely check that out. It's privatemoneyclub.com/money tank. I'm just kind of throwing out some different ways people can follow us, stay in touch, and come out and see us live.
Give them, how about this, folks? I want to sweeten this a little bit for you. So if any of you want to join us out in Raleigh, North Carolina, Hannah's going to be there. She's driving her Winnebago out to hang out with us for a couple of days. But if any of you want to join us August 4th and 5th in Raleigh, North Carolina, then I'll give you a really crazy discount on the tickets. So I'll give you 50% off general admission tickets. I'll give you $300 off the VIP tickets if you want to spend a little extra time with all of us. And even if some of you just want to join us virtually, I'll give you a discount for that too. So Stephen, can you put up the discount? So the virtual tickets are normally $297. I'll give them to you for $97. And then the Money Tank tickets are normally $297. We'll give them to you for $197, half off. Just for anybody that wants to join us for the Money Tank.
That's like next level. That's like next level using these policies to really move your money through real estate deals.
Yeah. And then Stacy Turk in the comments said, what is the monthly premium on $1 million policy on a 55 to 60-year-old? So Stacy, you're looking at this like you're buying life insurance. What we're trying to do here is teach you a process called the infinite banking concept. And then we're using a whole life. So you got to think differently. The way we design these is not the way you're used to buying life insurance. We're not saying, okay, well, here's $1 million policy. It costs you this. We're saying, how much do you want to save in this private banking system, the policy, and then we're going to put the lowest death benefit on. So you're literally looking at it just backwards.
Why do we use a whole life? Why do we use a whole life?
It's the only vehicle that allows you to put money in and still use that money without interrupting the compounding effect of the money in the policy.
It's the perfect investment. It's guaranteed to grow. It's guaranteed to never lose money. It's tax-free growth. It's protected in most cases from outside lawsuits and bankruptcies and things of that nature. It's liquid. It's available to you. If you want to get strong returns, you take the money and you invest it in smart things like real estate and loans. I mean, it's literally the perfect investment. And there's no other vehicle in the country, in the world. And we have people that contact us from Europe, from Australia, New Zealand. I just had a guy the other day from Switzerland reaching out, wishing they could do this, but their countries don't allow this to happen. The United States of America and Canada are the only 2 countries. And why does the US allow this? Because this is what the wealthy do, that control everything. This is what the politicians do, that control everything. So this isn't going anywhere. They just changed the rules a few years ago, something called IRS Rule 7702. And guess what? They didn't eliminate us from being able to do this. They made it better for us to be able to do this. So you're in the right spot if you like that kind of thing.
Another thing too I want to call out is, if any of you have ever read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, it's all about how the Fed was created. The author of the book is Edward Griffin. It's a phenomenal book. It's a book that will change your viewpoint on what the Fed is and how the Fed's associated with the government, which they're really not. So I've got something really cool in the hopper, and I'm just going to kind of leak it here as we, kind of get down in the attendees, and I want Brent and Hannah to hear it. So I've been secretly trying to arrange an event at Jekyll Island Club, the true Jekyll Island place where the Fed was created. But then I said, if we're going to do an event at the Jekyll Island Club, why not have Edward Griffin, the author of Creature from Jekyll Island, come and be the keynote speaker? So I am literally this close to making that happen. Edward has already said he's interested. We just have to send him a formal proposal. And if he goes for it, he's going to charge a whole bunch of money to be the speaker, but I'm going to pay it because this will be your probably only experience in your life where you'll ever be able to hear directly from the man that wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. He's getting older. He may not be around for too much longer. And I'm going to bring that opportunity to every one of you, no matter what it costs me to get this guy to come out and speak at Jekyll Island Club, which is something that he truly loves. And I think it's going to be wild. It's going to be next year. It'll be 2024, and it'll be the Experience Mastermind, and you'll all be invited. So that'll be
Hey,
pretty
so
wild.
do we have a date on that, Chris, or is that all in the works?
It's all in the works, and I'm
Okay.
keeping the date unannounced because I'm waiting for Edward to commit and tell us what date he wants. He wants us to kind of suggest a few dates, and I need to get that done tomorrow. Stephen, remind me tomorrow to do
Yeah.
that.
Well,
It's
can you get with me
2024
on
though,
those? Hey,
right?
Chris, can you get with me on those dates in 2024? Because I want to be there, and
No kidding.
I just want to, right? So just
I
before
gotta
you
have
nail
you
that-
there.
What's that?
I gotta have you there.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, just before you nail down the date, ask
Okay.
me about it because I've already got some stuff scheduled in 2024, but I want to make sure I can get there. So if I have any say so in the date, I'd like to be able to participate in that conversation.
Yeah, we can pick whatever dates we want in 2024. I just have to send him them. So if you want to look at your calendar and send me a few dates, I'll propose them to Edward's booking agent, and we'll try to make that happen. But
Assuming
name
the
of book is-
mastermind already sells out, we might have to expand it for that one, Chris.
Oh, well, yeah, that one's going to be a lot bigger than 25 because I got to pay for him. And I'm not going to tell you what his speaking fee is, but you guys can all just use your imagination. But it doesn't matter, right? It's a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah.
So, cost is only an issue in the absence of value. And I know that better than I would say anybody. The cost of having Edward Griffin, the author of Creature from Jekyll Island, the knowledge he knows, come and spend a day or 2 days with us at Jekyll Island Club, priceless. I
Yeah.
mean, if I got to sell a kidney or a liver to do it, I will. But we might not have to do that. All I need to do this event is have some of you book a call and get some policy so I don't have to sell my liver. Can you guys help a brother out? All right. So as we
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of get down to the last few minutes, somebody did a request, and it's something I'm very passionate about. So if I can just real quick, just show you something that I think is probably one of the most powerful things I can show you when it comes to your kids and really helping create the next generation of adult, our children will be the next generation of adults that run this country. And I think it's our sole duty as parents to make sure that our kids know more than what we knew. So I've set out on a mission, with several things, from a TEDx talk, which was called Rethink Money, a letter to my daughter, to then writing a book, which is still in progress and might come out in 2024 late, to doing lots of YouTube videos about how to teach your kids money, and also the newest show, which will be called the Lazy Cash Show. It'll be a YouTube Kids channel. But I want to show you what I set up for my daughter. Now, I did this when Vivi was 6 months old. It doesn't matter how old your kids are, okay? If they're kids, you should do this. When you see what I'm about to show you, it becomes very clearly evident that there is absolutely none of you and zero reason if you have a child that you don't do this. And if you don't do this, and I don't mean to say this in a mean way, shame on you, because this gives your children the opportunity to live a much better life and do a lot of good for the world. And it's just so simple, and it's not like it's big. And I'm just going to pull this up, and I just want to walk you through this. This was inspired by something Brent created. I can't remember what his name was, something Lucky Jeans. So
Larry Lucky Jeans.
Larry Lucky Jeans, but I don't have a son. So this is called Vivi Lucky Jeans. This is a true policy. And just to be clear, some of you that are kind of, nerding out on the policy designs, this policy is not designed for high early cash value. It is 60% to the base, 40% to the PUA. Like, why would you ever design it that way? Well, hold on a second. My daughter's 6 months old. So you can see in 1 year, all me and Larissa do is we put $5,000 a year into this. So it's not big. I could do that monthly, but I do this one annually. And you can see in the first year, we put 5 in. She only has 2285 in there. But you see, I don't need the money from this policy. This policy is not one that I'm going to put money in and immediately take it out. I'm going to let this thing like mature like fine wine. Because if I just use it for a couple things, and I could add anything I want in here, I'm just going to show you the kind of basic structure. I was thinking, all right, this one policy, Vivi will have many, many more policies, but this one policy, I figured if I could just do this tiny little policy at $5,000 a year, and the policy funds her college, and then after her college, if the policy could just fund her wedding, and then after her wedding, if the policy could just fund a down payment on her house, and after the down payment on her house, if the policy could just fund her kids' college when I'm gone, and all I want her to do is just let her know that Grandpa Chris paid for your college by setting this banking system up. And then what the hell, let's fund Vivi's retirement, or at least part of it, at $90,000 tax-free a year. So let's just walk through this. I put $5,000 a year into Vivi's policy. And I'll do that, and I'll teach her how this works, and I'll teach her how to buy cars with this. I'll teach her how to be her own bank with this, but it's only $5,000. And when Vivi's capable, maybe when she's 18 or 16 or whatever age, when she can pay the $5,000 or make the $5,000 premium deposits herself, she will. So I don't know at what point mom and dad will stop making the premium deposits. It really doesn't matter. But here, what I do in the numbers, you can change and be anything. You know, by the time she's 18, I figure she'll go to school somewhere. And if she doesn't go to school, what the hell? Consider take off college and say Vivi's surfing expedition, or Vivi's cross-country road trip, or Vivi, whatever. It could be anything she wants, but let's just call it college. So at 18, we put in $90,000 and her policy has 119. So we have 99 grand after we take 20,000 out for school. So you see each year I'm taking 20 grand out for college. So here's the amount that I've taken out. So at the end of college, I've taken 80,000 out, and she now has 153 earning interest and dividends. Remember, no matter what I take out, even though there's only 73,000 in cash value, she's still earning interest on 153. Fast forward down, she's 29. I'm just making ages up, but figure she's going to get married eventually. Maybe she won't wait as long as dad and wait till her 40s to get married, or not to get, yeah, anyway, sorry, I had kids in 40s, but I got married in my late 30s. So weddings are expensive from what I hear. So I've just allocated 40 grand, but she has 275,000 earning interest and 155 we could spend on the wedding. We take 40 out for the wedding. A couple of years later, after she gets married, you know, she wants a house. So we take 60 grand out. Then after we take 60 grand out, we come down here. Now I'm long gone, right? I'm sorry. I might have longevity, but I don't think I'm going to make it this long. So when Vivi has kids and then they're going to go to school, you know, Vivi will be 49. She takes 30,000 out each year for school. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. There's no way, you know, in 49 years from now, college will only cost 30 grand. So all I want you to remember is we have $685,000 to fund these college, you know, the college. So if it's 100,000 a year, does it really matter? No, it's just change the numbers to be whatever you want. So she at that point has 895 earning interest on, you know, and it just keeps compounding. So we take 30,000 out each year. We've taken 300,000 out. We've put 260,000 in, and we have 752,000 just sitting there hanging out, ready to be deployed. Like Vivi would never leave 752,000, because if I teach her anything, it will be, sweetie, your little green men, the cash needs to be out working so you don't have to work as hard. So that 752 will be loaned out to someone, somewhere, somehow. But even if she doesn't, this is a terrible example, but it just shows you the power. She's going to retire. So at 64, we're going to show her taking $90,000 out. And remember, she can take this 90,000 out tax-free, tax-free. So we just keep taking 90,000 out. Just keeps going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. Now I got to kind of assume at some point, like she's going to, you know, graduate and go on to a better place. So let's just say that's 90 years old. At 90 years old, dad and mom and Vivi had funded the policy at 398,000. There's 5.7 million in cash value at that point when she's 90, 3 million that wasn't used. So if we really sum it up, just look at the numbers. We put 398 in. We took loans of 2.73 million out. We still had 2.93 left. The cumulative cash value that was earning interest is 5.5 million. And her true, not cash on cash return, her cumulative, and I don't even like using that word, rate of return is 738%. So please tell me why somebody would not set one of these up for their children. Oh, it's because we got a 529 to pay for college. Oh, so your 529 buys your kid's car, pays for college, pays for a wedding, pays for a house, funds your retirement, funds the kid's college. I didn't know 529s did all that. So you see what I'm saying? There's nothing that exists that can do what I'm showing you right here. And all of you need to do this for your kids. But don't just set the policy up for your kids. They did that back in the day. Grandparents bought, their kids a whole life policy, but they never taught them how to use it and how to make money work for them. So if you're going to do this for your kids, make me a promise, make me, Brent, Stephen, and Hannah a promise that if you do this for your kids, you will teach them how to be their own bank and motivate them with that and say, hey, by the time you want a car, you're going to get to pick whatever car you want because you have this banking system. But there's a rule. If you buy a car using your banking system, you have to pay your banking system back. So you got to make sure you can afford the payments. Remember the example of the 911 that I gave. So again, I don't know how else to show this. Cash just joined because he was so interested in seeing this. Sorry, Cash, you showed up late. But there is just no reason any of you should not do this for your children. Brent, what is that you always say at the end? Shame on you or something like that. What is your famous line about not doing this? It's in your PowerPoint, and I can't believe I can't recite it. I can recite everything else you say.
Yeah, I got a couple, and I say the one thing I say is now that basically you've seen this and you understand it. Well, not even that you understand it, but now that you know about it, if you don't do it, not only are you stealing from yourself, you're stealing from your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, and future generations to come because you're letting all of your money leave your family. So what you have to do is start taking control of your money, keep that money in your family. And look, guys, all we're doing is we are using the tools that the wealthy have been using for over 200 years. So anyway, this concept is not on trial. It's not being tested. It's been around for over 200 years. Go out there and I want you just to research the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays. Go out there and see how Walt Disney built Disneyland. Go see how Ray Kroc started McDonald's. Go see how Pampered Chef got started before it was bought by Warren Buffett. The concept is not on trial. It's not being tested. And the quote that I love more than anything else, and I heard this quote in October of 2008. I don't know if this is when he first said it, but there's a guy out there. His name is Warren Buffett. Have you ever heard of Warren Buffett?
No.
Well, Warren Buffett said this, and this is how simple and easy it is. Warren Buffett said if poor people would just start doing what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. How much sense does that make? That's all we're going to do is we're going to imitate and mimic what the wealthy have been doing for over 200 years. I'm not going to change your cash flow. I'm not going to make you work any harder. I'm not going to have you take any additional risk or lose control of your money. All we're doing is we're adding one step in your financial life. And when you do that, it is a complete game changer.
Here's something cool, Brent, just to add to that. I was just typing, my story. I started learning 2019, but really dug in with COVID in 2020. And that's when it really hit me. But since then, I've helped personally over 1,000 clients get started with their own banking policies. And of all of those people over the last 4 years, do you know how many have come back to me over the last 4 years and told me what I helped them do, what I sold them was bullshit? You know how many of those over 1,000 people?
0.
Actually, one. It just
One.
And no, let me explain why though. Let me explain why. Because we found out when I went back and looked is there was a error at the insurance company and they actually issued them the wrong policy. So we went back and we fixed it and everything was perfect. So my track record's back to 100% though. Yeah. But it's just that this just tells you I've never sold any, I've sold my stuff my whole life. whether it's cars, whether it's whatever, right? Like jobs back in college, like everybody sells no matter what your job is. But anyways, I've never, ever been around any kind of industry with that kind of track record where there's literally zero complaints on what you do. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I don't know. I mean, Brent would know better, or Hannah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many thousands of clients I've helped, just in the time I've been doing this. But the coolest thing is I don't have a single person who's upset with me.
Yeah.
Not one.
Right.
Not
Well,
one.
amazing.
And it's weird because as a financial advisor, everybody was always mad at me. If the market shifted because Jerome Powell opened his mouth, or God forbid, the president actually tried to say something useful, like the market goes down, and I'd get calls from clients who were upset at me. I had nothing to do with it, but I got yelled at all the time as an advisor. And now thousands of clients, not one person's mad at me. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I feel like I should just piss some people off.
Well, and so the thing I tell people all the time, the thing that I love most about my job, the thing I love most is nobody's ever mad at me, because people don't get mad at you when you're helping them to build, keep, and create wealth. So like back when I was a chiropractor, and right, so the majority of you know my backstory, and I used to be well, I still am a chiropractor. I just haven't practiced in many, many years. Anyway, so like I would have the patients would come in, you have patient come in, here comes in Mary, and Mary would say, hey, Doc, I've been coming here now for 8 or 10 visits and my back still hurts. Well, Mary, it takes time. The problem didn't come on overnight, and it's not going to go away overnight. But still, the thing is that you have the people, the patients that want instant gratification. They think by giving them one adjustment, that just cures everything, and it doesn't work that way. And again, that was frustrating because that's just not how the body heals. It's just like if you're overweight, you need to lose 50 pounds, just because like you buy a gym membership doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. You actually have to go to the gym and put in some time, and it's going to take some time, right? In this business, and yeah, so like in this business and just what we do, that is the most gratifying, rewarding thing is nobody's ever mad at us. The thing that's so gratifying is the people in the comments that we get. I mean, ask Hannah, ask Sandra Fry, how many people will text us an email and say, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. This has been life-changing. I paid off this. I bought this. I was able to put my kids through college. I was able to upgrade my house. I was able to pay off all this debt in way less amount of time. I mean, there's so many different stories, and all you guys got to do is go on Google or YouTube and Google my name, Brent Kessler or Chris Naugle, or just put us in YouTube, and you will see the plan designs, the case studies, the success stories, the testimonials. There's a ton of that stuff out there. Or go to our website, www.themoneymultiplier.com. We have a lot of them out there as well. So that is probably one of the most gratifying things, is just the people that you're helping. And I'm a big believer of what the late Zig Ziglar said. And the late Zig Ziglar said this. He says, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll end up getting what you want. Look at Hannah mimicking me. All right. Probably should shut this pony show down.
Oh, listen, I got to give so much credit to all of you, from this whole team here to all of you, 116 people still on this webinar, 3 hours, you stuck it out. Like, don't say thank you to us. Like, we owe you a thank you because you just gave us your time. And like I said earlier, your time is the single most valuable resource you have in this life. So from me to you, and I guess I speak for all of us, thank you for being here. And that's going to conclude tonight's webinar, but it is not the last one, because tomorrow we're back with what the F happened. Then we got wealth webinar at 1, and we're going to hit a lot more real estate specific stuff on wealth webinar tomorrow. And then we're going to finish it off with the entire team and our Brady Bunch kind of set up for the Ask Me Anything happy hour, where we're going to answer all the questions that we weren't able to get here. Thank you again to each of you. And Cash, say thanks. Come on. They're the ones paying for your catnip. Tell them thank you. All right, folks. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.